Picture this, a beast tamer, a total powerhouse, commanding monsters, nightmares, and mythical creatures straight out of legends. This isn't your average 9 to 5, it's an elite gig. Back in the remote sticks of Rella, once kids hit the big 1 to 2, a priest scans their souls to unlock their destiny. And Locke? He dropped a bombshell on the whole village. When the verdict came back, beast tamer. His crew was instantly all over him with the high fives, knowing he just pulled a 1% drop rate. But this class was so obscure, even the priest was scratching his head. Still, the vibes were immaculate. They hyped him up, convinced he'd figure out the meta. Isaac, usually the quiet type, suddenly clenched his fist. He vowed right there to become the world's #1 gladiator. Emmy matched that energy, swearing she'd evolve into the ultimate mage. Kara played it cooler than the others, but her eyes were set on becoming a saint, with the power to heal any injury. Finally, Locke threw his hand in the pile, and they locked in a pact. S rank or bust. They laughed off the sheer audacity of that dream. But honestly, the class title didn't mean squat to our tamer. He just wanted to roll with his squad and catch good times. So, he dedicated himself to making their dreams come true. Cut to 3 years later, the royal capital is getting hammered by a brutal storm. A lone silhouette sprints through the downpour. It's Locke, now 15. He's rushing to the team's crash pad, hand on the doorknob, when he freezes. Voices inside are talking about giving him the boot. It's Isaac, ranting about how Locke is a beast tamer who hasn't tamed a single thing. He's basically a glorified pack mule carrying bags and running errands, entry-level stuff. Emmy tried to clap back, reminding him of their history. But Isaac wasn't hearing it. They're an S-rank squad now, living legends. They can't afford to drag around dead weight in the heat of battle. Then came the hesitation. She mentioned that even the hero had his eyes on their party, and this was their golden ticket. If a celebrity like that joined, the king pays attention, and their village gets saved. Facts, sure, but it stung like hell, especially for the childhood friend soaking in the rain outside. Tomorrow was D-Day. They were hitting the hell dungeon with the hero, and after the clear, Locke was getting cut from the roster. Emmy opened her mouth to argue again, but Isaac pivoted to Kara, who was clutching the dungeon map like gold. She was too paranoid to leave it at the inn. Isaac let out a resigned sigh. Meeting adjourned. Anyone wanting to chat with Locke could do it solo. Emmy bolted for the door, refusing to let the conversation die there. In the rush, they completely missed their old friend lurking in the shadows. Look, it's true the tamer hadn't snagged a sacred beast yet, but he swore to play the ultimate support role, and he delivered on that promise. While other tamers wasted years hunting pets, Locke was the team chef, the inventory manager, the scout, and the guy handling all the gritty grunt work nobody else wanted. He even handled the guild politics. Too bad the squad never realized his value. The sun rose on the next day, and a flashy guy rolled up to the S-rank crew. Meet Kid, the so-called hero in training. He flashed a smile, dropping the pleasure to meet you line. He tried to vibe with Isaac, but Isaac gave him the side eye and turned away, annoyed. So, the new guy switched targets to the ladies, laying on the cringe-worthy flirtation. While Locke analyzed the scene, the hero strutted over with a cheerful grin. But the mask slipped instantly. He called Locke a servant and ordered him to haul his gear, showing his true colors. Emmy jumped in to correct the servant label immediately. Kid faked an apology, claiming he only assumed that because Locke was mooling all the luggage. Kara cut them off, just wanting to get moving, completely ignoring the disrespect towards her friend. But first, Isaac demanded a gear check. Without a word, Kid drew his blade, flexing the Dragon Slayer's ruin, a royal gift meant to one-shot actual dragons. The party was mesmerized. The craftsmanship was god tier. However, Locke spotted a flaw. Is that a hairline fracture near the hilt? Offended, Kid snapped, pressing the cold steel against Locke's throat and barking servant again. The tamer didn't even blink, just sighed in acceptance. Isaac ordered them to ignore the drama and focus up. With the hero finally on the scene, the vibe shifted instantly. The squad felt that familiar safety net, convinced they were untouchable again. Hype levels maxed out as everyone high-fived, swearing to speedrun this dungeon and clear it with 0 casualties. Locke, however, was treated like an invisible NPC. He watched from the sidelines, a bitter déjà vu of the pact they made as kids, except he wasn't part of it this time. He felt powerless. In the past, being their rock was enough fuel to keep him going through the grind. Supporting their dreams used to be his dream, but now, he couldn't even muster a fake cheer. The squad marched into the hell dungeon with Locke, taking point like always, but Isaac was on his back, nagging him to pick up the pace every 2 seconds. The tamer was actually working overtime, casting Monster Detect to map out enemy hotspots, carefully plotting a route to avoid unnecessary brawls. Because here's the thing, the shortest path is usually a death trap, but logic wasn't on the menu today. The gladiator just couldn't process it, screaming at Locke to stop stalling. Locke tried to break down the strategy, but Isaac wasn't hearing any of it. He was too busy sucking up to the hero, desperate to rush the boss room to impress him. Kid just shrugged, throwing shade about how empty the dungeon seemed, joking that even a servant could lead the way at this rate. Locke's ears pricked up. He heard threats incoming, but the disrespect silenced him before he could warn them. Isaac asked if the hero had raided this spot before. The answer? Yeah, once. He'd tagged along with a high-tier pro and barely made it out alive. That trauma made him swear off teaming up with mediocrity ever again. Right on cue, a swarm of insectoid nightmares burst from the shadows. Locke didn't flinch. He deleted them with lethal precision and immediately pivoted back to guiding them to the next zone. But Isaac? He was triggered for no reason. He smacked the map, right out of Locke's grip, barking orders to move. He claimed his demands were basic, flying into a rage, and roasting Locke, while commanding him to sprint. Kid snatched the map, analyzed the route, and then dropped a bombshell on the group. The Tamer wasn't taking the direct line. He was taking the long way around. The squad gasped like they'd just uncovered a conspiracy. Even Emmy looked at him with fresh suspicion. Locke tried to defend his tactical choice, but Isaac was already spinning the narrative, accusing him of petty sabotage and trying to tank the mission out of spite. It was a wild, toxic accusation. Then, the unthinkable happened. Emmy walked up silently and delivered a soul-shattering slap across Locke's face. He stood there, stunned, while she played the victim, feeling totally betrayed. Tears streaming, the mage demanded to know why he couldn't get it through his head that this wasn't a game. She dropped the ultimatum. Not even she could defend him. If he kept acting like a liability, that's when it hit him. She was drinking the Kool-Aid just like the rest of them. He had explained the safety-first strategy 1,000 times before, and they used to be cool with it. The lack of trust was honestly insulting. But fine, if they wanted speed, he'd give them speed. He led them down the fast route, warning them it would be crawling with enemies. They told him to do his job and kill them, and he just nodded, totally checked out. While Isaac got scolded to focus up, Locke was stuck in a mental flashback, trying to pinpoint the exact second this friendship turned into a dumpster fire. His so-called teammates looked at him like he was dead weight, and it broke him to realize these were the same people he grew up with. Kid casually suggested kicking him from the party, while the Tamer quietly mowed down monsters in the background. Finally, they reached the boss chamber, but the crew was absolutely gassed from fighting non-stop to get there. Massive doors barred the path. Seeing everyone panting, Locke suggested a quick breather to regroup. Isaac shut it down instantly, blaming Locke for wasting enough time already. Emmy shot him a look of pure disgust, saying it was riskier to keep him around, calling him an idiot who couldn't read the room. That was it. The Tamer dropped the polite act and just accepted the hate. His chill attitude triggered the gladiator, who rallied the squad, declaring his patience was officially at 0. The mage stayed quiet, but the saint nodded in agreement. They claimed he'd been useless for too long. So, Isaac dropped the hammer. The Tamer is fired the second this dungeon is cleared. Moving forward, they'd climb to the next level as a 4-man cell with Kid. Locke didn't even blink. He knew they had plotted this last night. With the elephant in the room addressed and the expulsion confirmed, Isaac got his mojo back. The 4 of them huddled up, reminding the Tamer he was officially an outsider now. His orders? Stay behind Kara and spam buffs. Just shut up and do the magic support. They shoved the heavy doors open and stepped inside to face the boss. In the center of the room, a colossal beast lay sleeping, its luxurious fur shimmering in the gloom. As his chest heaved in a steady rhythm, the atmosphere in the room shifted instantly, eyes widening in sheer panic. It wasn't just shock. They didn't expect a gray wolf. But Locke knew better. A regular gray wolf? That's weak sauce for a dungeon boss. Catching the metallic shimmer in its fur, reality hit him. This was the silver wolf, Fenrir. We're talking a legendary catastrophe that could chew up and spit out an S-rank adventurer without breaking a sweat. The only silver lining? Fenrir usually couldn't care less about humans, unless someone was stupid enough to swing first. Too bad the other 2 guys had 0 survival instincts. Thinking it was just trash mob loot, they rushed in, weapons drawn, trying to speedrun the quest. Locke screamed for them to fall back, realizing they were charging straight into a meat grinder, but it was too late. The reckless duo had already launched their attack, leaving the rest of the squad frozen in total disbelief. Despite the direct hit, the wolf didn't even flinch. Instead, the sound of shattering metal echoed. Kid's legendary Dragon Slayer sword just snapped like a twig. While Isaac stood there, confused why his attacks did 0 damage, Fenrir started circling them, his predator mode fully activated. A massive howl ripped through the air, shaking the dungeon to its core. The 2 girls hit the floor, legs turning to jelly just from the beast's aura, with Kara looking like she was about to pass out. Kid yelled for a full retreat, realizing he couldn't fight a boss with a broken hilt. Isaac tried to argue they hadn't even scratched it yet, But that was exactly the point. Free hits yielded 0 damage, staying meant death. They had to bail. Now, gritting their teeth, the squad turned tail and ran the second the beast lunged forward. The chase was on. Locke took point, literally carrying Kara in his arms, but leading the pack only earned him trash talk from the gladiator behind him. Locke dropped to the back, staying silent, but Kid was already cooking up a dark plan. Muttering that this was Locke's only purpose, the hero surged past the Tamer. Suddenly, he plunged the broken blade straight into Locke's chest. The betrayal was lightning fast and brutal, dropping the boy to the cold stone, body convulsing in agony. 0 remorse shown. Kid grabbed a spare sword from their loot pile and ditched the heavy baggage, calling it a parting gift for the afterlife. Shouting to Isaac, he announced that the guy was finally a real member of the party now. Locke lay there, paralyzed by shock, as his childhood friend confirmed the sentence with a twisted smirk. Like he had expected this backstabbing all along, he watched the two men sprint away, wondering how far they'd actually get. As the wolf snarled and kept up the hunt, Locke watched Emmy dash right past him, not even glancing back, tossing a hollow apology over her shoulder for leaving him to rot. Kara was abandoned too, but she recovered enough to scramble to her feet, her only concern being the expensive dress. Stashed in the luggage, she bolted. Locke's vision started to blur, fading to black, and the last thing searing into his mind was the absolute proof of how much his so-called friends despised him. They decided he was better off dead. After all that talk about promising to do their best, about grinding to get stronger together. They claimed they trusted him, begged for his support, even said the party would fall apart without him. That betrayal cut deeper than the steel currently lodged in his ribs. While his mind raced through the trauma, Fenrir loomed over him, blocking out the light. Locke opened his mouth, letting out a weak, broken laugh. He still wanted to save those jerks. He couldn't bring himself to hate them. Fenrir growled low, looking down at the rotten humans who would sacrifice their own teammate just to save their own skins. Disgusted by such heartless behavior, the beast opened its massive jaws, deciding to at least give the boy a painless end. In that split second, Locke turned to face the wolf. Hearing the creature speak made him pause, gasping out a question about how a monster could speak the human tongue. Even the legendary beast flinched in surprise, confirming that the dying boy could actually understand its words. Both froze in disbelief. It had to be the passive effect of his beast tamer class. Now that they were on the same wavelength, Fenrir stepped closer, asking if the human still wanted to throw hands. Locke insisted he had 0 death wish, but the wolf insisted on playing a little, complaining about being bored in the dungeon for ages. The problem? Playing would definitely kill him. Locke had to use his brain. He scrambled through the abandoned luggage and grabbed Isaac's spare chest plate. With a desperate heave, he frisbee-tossed the armor over the wolf's head. Fenrir's dog software kicked in. He sprinted to catch it mid-air and trotted back, dropping the slobber-covered armor while questioning the boy's intentions. He chucks it again silently, but putting some real distance on it this time. The wolf is zigzagging back and forth, desperate to snag the prize. The second it leaves his hand, this crazy feeling hits him. Look at that tail go. It is spinning like a helicopter rotor. Without even realizing it, he is fully immersed in the game. It is pure joy. And just like that, it hits them. It has been ages since either of them felt this alive. But reality crashes in. Locke brings up what the wolf said earlier about being stuck here. Turns out, there is a barrier seal. And it is no joke, way too overpowered, even for a legendary beast to break. As they talk it out, the wolf plops down, totally bummed. Then, the tamer drops a hypothetical. If I bust you out, you rolling with me? Fenrir stares him down for a beat, then laughs it off. Good joke, kid. Locke is ready to walk away, expecting a no, when suddenly, boom, accepted. And this isn't just words. It is a pact from a species that physically cannot lie. Right then, a notification flashes in Locke's mind. The system is clear. The legendary beast wants to join the party. The voice demands the tamer's permission. It is his first time hearing it directly inside his skull, but he recognizes the phenomenon instantly. The archives are full of tamers reporting this exact thing. Though, there is that one horror story about a guy who completely lost his mind after hearing it. Still, Locke knows the stakes. He accepts the canine as his partner. Blinding light erupts from both of them. Fenrir is officially in the squad. The sacred beast sanctuary and the divine beast form unlocked. Since info on beast tamers is basically non-existent, Locke has 0 clue what kind of power he is sitting on. He's going to have to test everything out on the fly. The silver wolf is absolutely buzzing. Power and data are flooding his system now that the bond is sealed. Locke finally introduces himself properly. The wolf seems super interested in the name. And guess what? That tail starts going crazy again. He demands a new name for himself too. But Fenrir isn't asking for just any tag. He wants something sick. Something that matches his legendary vibe. Locke is stumped. He spends a solid minute racking his brain, while the wolf literally blushes with anticipation. Finally, he speaks up. How about, Lucky? Super basic, right? The wolf's face scrunches up, teeth bared. But it is not rage, he thinks it is incredible. He accepts the name instantly, and starts bouncing around the cave like a puppy. Suddenly, glitch. A treasure chest spawns out of thin air. Looks like taming the divine beast counts as clearing the dungeon boss. Nice loophole. Dying to see the loot, he cracks it open. Jackpot. First up, a mysterious bracelet, and then a massive collar that actually makes Lucky grin. It looks so stylish. The wolf begs Locke to equip it on him right now. The moment it clips on, the zoomies return. But while Lucky celebrates, Locke inspects the bracelet. A voice chimes in, announcing he has equipped the miniature garden bracelet. Apparently, he can hop in and out at will. At first, he has no clue what that means. But then, he looks closer at the glass dome, and his jaw drops. It is exactly what it says on the tin, a tiny, living world inside. Lucky, being the curious doggo he is, gets a little too close. His snout taps the glass, and zap, his whole body gets sucked straight into the bracelet. Locke freaks out, totally, not expected. Lucky, you good? A voice echoes from the bracelet, confirming he is chill. Actually, he pops right back out, tail wagging, inviting Locke to come check out this fun garden. Sounds crazy, right? But there is only one way to find out if the wolf is trolling. Locke just thinks about entering, and blink he is inside. It is insane, like a completely separate pocket dimension. The peace, the quiet. It is the ultimate chill spot. Okay, it is not huge, but the climate is perfect. This isn't just a hangout. It is going to work perfectly, as a magical item vault. Sure, inventory artifacts exist to store stuff in, pocket dimensions, but none of them can store living. Familiars like this. Lucky cuts through his analysis, asking, what's next, boss? Since his old life is pretty much over after today, Locke grins. How about we travel the world hunting down other divine beasts like you? The thought of building a squad makes that tail go supersonic. After all, there have got to be others out there, desperate for freedom just like he was. Now that is a solid mission. But first, gotta escape this dungeon. They exit the bracelet, and Locke hops on the wolf's back to ride out in style. Don't fall off. Locke grips that thick fur tight, grateful for the lift. Man, this is way faster than walking. Moving with that signature Fenrir swagger, they tore up the path. At this pace, hitting the stairs and the barrier was just moments away. Further up, Locke signaled a hard right. Lucky didn't get it. He hesitated, questioning the logic, since gunning it straight was obviously the express route. But Locke cut him off. The path ahead was crawling with monsters, and he wasn't interested in pointless brawls today. That earned a nod of respect from the Fenrir. Locke was sharper than he looked. But as the wolf turned his head to check the surroundings, he spotted the carnage. Sliced up insect carcasses littered the floor. They slammed on the brakes, curiosity piqued. Locke hopped off, scanning the loot while Lucky watched, confused. Sure, these monster parts would fetch a high price on the market, but apparently, they tasted gourmet too. Lucky's ears perked up instantly. Forget the money, he begged for a taste test right then and there. Locke grabbed a massive chunk between his hands. Collect. A flash of light, and poof, the item vanished straight into his inventory. The familiar stared, completely awestruck by the tamer's storage skill. Locke got a hunch. Maybe they could multitask this? He wanted to see if they could auto-loot while mounted. He vaulted back onto the wolf's back and gave the command. But Lucky lacked finesse. His raw, legendary strength was just too much, and splat. The insect chunk exploded into mist. They both froze, staring at the mess, until the big bad wolf whimpered a quiet apology. Embarrassed, he tried again. This time, he moved his massive claws with surgical precision, determined to get a different outcome. The claw tip barely grazed the shell. Collect. But nope, same disaster. Instead of storing it, he sliced it clean in half. Lucky watched in horror as the potential snack crumbled to the ground. Well, lesson learned. Precise looting wasn't in his skill tree yet. The wolf slumped, visibly bummed out, but hey, he'd learn eventually. Right now, they had to focus on the main mission, breaking out of the seal that trapped the divine beast. Lucky shoved against the barrier, solid, impenetrable. Just like he said, it was insanely powerful. He sighed, accepting his fate. Fenrir muttered that this was probably the end of the road for them. Short trip, but a fun ride. Locke just smirked, cutting the melodrama, telling him it was way too early to quit. He ordered Lucky to hop into the miniature garden. The wolf's eyes lit up. He got the plan instantly. This was actually genius. He vanished into the bracelet without hesitation. Moment of truth. No guarantee this glitch would work against a god-tier barrier. At least, that's what Locke was thinking, until he simply walked right through, like it wasn't even there. Once he was clear, he summoned Lucky back out, and they celebrated the genius workaround. The rest of the dungeon escape? A total cakewalk? with Fenrir sprinting toward the exit, blurring past everything. When fresh air finally hit his face, the wolf turned to thank the human. Freedom still felt like a dream, but he was ready to ride or die with this guy. Locke felt the same vibe. He held out a fist, the universal sign of brotherhood. Lucky raised a massive paw to bump it back, then remembered he crushed the loot earlier and pulled back. Instead, he gently pressed his snout against Locke's fist, marking the start of something bigger than a simple partnership. For the first time in history, a beast tamer had successfully tamed a divine beast. Cut to the Adventurers Guild, dead center of the capital. A massive crowd was forming. Turns out, walking a mythical wolf turns heads. Locke saw this coming a mile away, but the guards were panicking, rushing in to protect the guild from the big bad wolf. Lucky just let out a bored yawn, while Locke tried to de-escalate. He's tamed, relax. But the guards were too busy freaking out to listen. Weapons drawn, tension spiking. Locke wondered if he'd have to fight his way out. Just then, a familiar face stepped out to investigate the commotion. Rika, the receptionist. She breezed past the guards, who immediately blushed and stepped aside and beamed at Locke. "Welcome back." Then she paused. Wait, wasn't he supposed to be grinding in the Hell Dungeon? Her thought process crashed as she locked eyes with the absurdly majestic wolf standing right there. Locke just laughed, playing it cool. "Oh, this? Meet my new familiar, Fenrir." At first, she thought her ears were glitching. Fenrir? Like the legendary world-ending wolf? Then she saw his face. He wasn't joking. Her jaw dropped, and she congratulated him on becoming the master of a literal god. The guards and the crowd overheard her, but their brains refused to process it. Taming Fenrir? That's impossible. But facts are facts. Now came the boring part, paperwork. He had to register the beast, so they ushered him inside. While Locke speed ran the registration process, Lucky just plopped down in front of the guild for a well-deserved nap. He gave Rika props for patching him up. Then she dropped a bomb, asking where the rest of his squad was at, which caught him off guard. That silence confirmed they were still MIA. He decided to keep it 100. Kid had driven a blade straight through his chest. The hero had left him in the dungeon to rot. Rika looked horrified, scrambling to ask if he was actually okay. Luckily, it wasn't game over. The hero's cheap sword had snapped in half before it could finish the job. Letting out a breath, Rika realized the shady rumors about the young hero were actually legit. Back in his rookie era, Kid entered a dungeon with a full crew. The only survivors to walk out? Just Kid and one other guy. Word on the street is he used his own homies as bait just to save his own skin. Flashback to a few hours ago. Yeah, that sounds exactly like something that Snake would do. Rika was still tripping though. She couldn't wrap her head around why he'd target the tamer of all people this time. Kid claimed it was because the MC was useless trash, laughing it off. But to Rika, that was total cap. That logic made zero sense. If you asked her, the tamer was the MVP, easily the most capable member of the whole team. Kid's excuse was weak, especially since he claimed the MC only did basic stuff anyone could handle. That's probably the lame excuse they used to boot him right in the middle of a raid. Rika wasn't having it. She argued that is absolutely not the mindset an S-rank adventurer should have. She swore the guild would nerf their rank down to B, maybe even lower for this mess. The MC was shook. He tried to defend them, claiming that was too harsh since they had some solid wins. But betrayal? That's a straight-up violation of guild law. Plus, the rest of the squad is still missing, which just proves they're total noobs without him. Rika laid out the hard facts. They haven't even cleared the exit yet. They're stuck in there with Kid, a psycho who'd commit any atrocity just to save his own neck. Hearing that, the MC bolted for the door. Rika yelled after him, warning that they'd probably just trash-talk him again, even if he saved their lives. She was probably right, but he couldn't just delete the good memories of them from his brain. So he decided he wasn't going back for love. He was going back to flex his gear in their faces. Rika didn't see that coming, but she vibed with it. She bowed goodbye, trying to hide her heartbreak as he ran off. Outside the guild, a familiar bark hit his ears. He almost forgot Lucky was chilling right there. The local kids were climbing all over the beast like a jungle gym. He asked his buddy if he was down for one more dungeon run. But before moving, the beast warned him, "Those snakes are undoubtedly gonna betray you again." "I know," the MC replied. "This is the last time, period." Seeing the fire in his eyes, Lucky knew there was no stopping him. Total respect. The beast said, "Peace out to the kids," tail wagging like crazy. The MC hopped on his back, and they zoomed back toward the dungeon at mosh speed. Meanwhile, on the 5th floor, Kid was chewing out the squad for getting lost without a map. Isaac clapped back, screaming that Kid wasn't doing any better. Suddenly, they missed their old guide. Emmy frowned, looking defeated. The hero roasted them, calling them worthless slugs who didn't deserve S-rank status. Isaac defended himself, yelling that they just sprinted up from the 10th floor. Of course they were gassed. He told Kid to stop acting high and mighty when he couldn't even swing his own weapon right. They were taking the shortcut. No detours. So why were they drowning in double the monsters? Low-floor mobs are supposed to be trash, but these things felt like they were on steroids. They cleared the path, but it drained their MP. They just prayed the monsters would get weaker on the next floor. While they caught their breath, Kid asked if Isaac's spare sword was actually usable. They told the hero to chill and save his energy for when the enemies actually showed up. Kid wasn't having it. He mocked Isaac's rusty-looking blade until his face went ghost white. "Is that thing cursed?" Kid stammered. Isaac shrugged, explaining he bought it in the city and it never rusted. Never chipped either. Kid froze in disbelief. He demanded to inspect the girl's staffs immediately. His panic spiked. Looking closely, he realized the gear was god tier. He couldn't believe he was stuck with idiots who didn't know what they were holding. The gladiator is totally clueless about the insults, proving he has zero idea what's actually going on. Then, Kid drops the bomb. Lo had been flooding them with an insane amount of blessings. No wonder they hit S rank in just 3 years. This is news to Isaac, who genuinely believed they ground their way to the top on pure skill. But nope, the kid was casting impact resistance, magic buffs, the works. He was constantly channeling a skill that funneled his own mana straight into his teammates. There were so many buff layers, Kid lost count. Basically, the Beast Tamer hard carried them to where they are now, even though his own level was barely on the charts. The truth hits them like a freight train. Silence hangs heavy in the air. Isaac is absolute shambles, realizing his S-rank title belongs to Lo. Flashbacks hit. Even back then, their trainer was always hyping up the Tamer's rapid growth. In reality, the gladiator was always being compared to him, basically told to take notes from his lesser partner. It was always like that, pre-adventure days included. The Tamer's shadow has been looming over him forever. Now that the shadow is gone, Isaac's brain refuses to compute. Emmy looks worried, but Kid, he's just calculating how much of a burden they are. He checks Kara's status. Doing the math, she's got about 12 healing charges left for the squad. As for the mage, she'll have to make do with her spells. Keeping the momentum, the hero reads the room and pushes them to the next level. Before the stairs to the 4th floor, 5 orange ants block the path. A head-on collision is suicide. Those things will signal the swarm before the first punch lands. Kara is ordered to dump her remaining mana into healing everyone. Plan is, Gladiator takes point, Maid and Saint in the middle, Kid covering the rear, full sprint, no looking back, no stopping. The second the ants spot them, the hero pulls a dirty move and stabs the Saint in the back. She doesn't even process it, but Kid is already grinning that toxic smile. He leaves her in the dust, claiming a healer out of juice. Is just dead weight good for one thing? Drawing aggro. As she looks up, she sees her party sprinting away. Without a single backward glance, her trembling hand reaches out, begging them to wait. But it's game over. The swarm is already on her. She feels their presence, turns around, and sees the nightmare piling onto her. Down on the 4th floor, amidst the chaos, Isaac screams, demanding to know why Kid betrayed Kara. Kid shrugs it off. Sacrifices are part of the survival game. Besides, what happens in the dungeon stays in the dungeon. They're all accomplices now. Anyone who talks goes down with the ship. The brutal reality sinks in. It's just like back then, they abandoned Lo when they could have saved him. That makes them just as guilty as the guy holding the knife. Still, Kid didn't expect them to be this useless given their fancy rank. Isaac snaps, yelling he's not trash like them, and hurls an ant into the wall. But he's gassed. Even on the 4th floor, these monsters are tanky. Blue ants shouldn't be this tough. Before, they were fodder, barely worth the XP. He remembers the revelation about Lo's infinite buffs. It makes his blood boil, but rage won't save him from the enemies flanking them. Just as he's about to get wrecked, the Beast Tamer bursts onto the scene, Lucky tearing the monsters to shreds. Everyone is stunned, seeing the guy they left for dead. They stare in disbelief. He's perfectly fine, riding a divine beast. He tells them he crawled back from hell, putting the traitors on edge. Fenrir suggests wiping them out, since no one would know anyway. Lo is ready to throw hands, but Emmy screams, begging her old friend to save Kara, trapped on the 5th floor. Lo immediately clocks what these heroes did. Standard behavior. Kid smiles, claiming it was the only play. Lo curses them out, unable to believe this garbage. Passes for heroes, let alone childhood friends. Lucky, with a smug look, highlights their total lack of remorse. Lo has to accept the reality, but he's not leaving the Saint behind. He calls on his familiar. The wolf is ready to show some mercy. He locks in, trying to track Kara's scent, that overwhelming perfume she used to mask the dungeon stench. Ignoring everything else, he listens to his partner and blasts off, leaving those random adventurers eating his dust. While the two guys glare daggers, Emmy just watches, face twisted with guilt. In no time flat, our duo hits the 5th floor, and it is straight up carnage immediately. One swipe from Fenrir obliterates entire waves, but the swarm is endless. It's like a tide of nightmares pouring out of the nest, drawn by the scent of fresh meat. They're so thick, they actually start crawling up Fenrir's fur. But Locke? He just smirks. He pushes forward to save his friend, totally unbothered. Losing Lucky isn't even a possibility in his mind. They crush the ant army. The divine beast notes their chemistry is fire, and Locke has to agree. It is the first time he has ever felt this synced with a partner. Their moves flow together perfectly, making the battle look easy. Once the trash mobs are cleared, they shift focus to hunting down Kara. They scour the area and finally spot her crushed on the ground, totally motionless. It hits him hard, memories of their time together flashing back. She used to nag him for feedback on her healing bruise. She was the team's dedicated healer. Back then, her whole world revolved around patching them up after dungeon raids. He scoops her up into his arms and forces a potion down her throat, the very one he created, thanks to her inspiration. Now he is betting everything it saved her. He holds her tight, praying for a miracle. In a weird way, he is grateful for everything she did. Suddenly, she hacks a cough, and her eyes flutter open. He gives her a light tap on the cheek to snap her out of it. She blinks, fully waking up, and looks totally bewildered to see Locke alive. She assumes she kicked the bucket, and this is the afterlife. Tears start flowing as she apologizes for abandoning him when things got real. She calls herself unforgivable for betraying such a kind friend. Locke cuts her off, it's all good now, but he decides to troll her a little. He says there is one tiny problem, even in heaven. He points at Lucky, and acts like they are both dead, claiming they have to defeat the underworld boss, Fenrir, to level up to the next realm. She stares blankly, trying to compute. The second it clicks, she passes out from sheer terror. Lucky rolls his eyes, clarifying that Cerberus is the Hell Guardian, not him. Locke realizes they need to head back to the city and tells the wolf to carry Kara. Lucky looks offended, grumbling that his back is VIP access only, but eventually caves to the boy's demand. Locke thanks him for being cool about it. Suddenly, he spots a crack in the cave wall. Looks like a secret entrance to another ant nest. Lucky lights up instantly. Dude wants ant eggs. He is practically drooling thinking about the flavor. Distracted, the wolf bounds down the path, leaving Locke in the dust. When they hit the next zone, Lucky finds his snack stash. He locks onto the target, but while Locke is checking out the eggs with curiosity, he suddenly notices one egg is a totally different color. He looks around, most of the other eggs have been smashed open. Snap. The survivors start hatching, revealing these orange juvenile ants. Locke draws his weapon, ready to brawl, but get this, instead of attacking, the ants rush him and hug his legs, calling him Papa. Lucky cracks up, joking that Locke must have a secret family on the side, explaining why he is always late. Suddenly, that voice rings in his head again, asking if he wants to recruit the orange ants into his party. He pauses. He literally just exterminated their kind, yet they want to join him. After a second of thought, he accepts. Leaving them there would be messed up. The orange ants immediately morph into human form. Locke is shook. They turned into little girls. Post-transformation, they get warped straight to the sanctuary garden. Locke tells Lucky he is dipping into the garden for a sec to check on the new recruits, leaving Kara with the wolf. Lucky agrees to babysit. Locke teleports to the sacred space. He realizes the place needs an upgrade to fit the new beasts. He pulls up the expansion menu, carefully choosing what to build. He drops in a river and a lake, then adds a shed and some fruit trees to complete the vibe. He decides to supersize the territory, transforming the area into a massive field. Once he locks it in, the sacred garden levels up into this lush, abundant landscape. He stands there jaw-dropped, totally shook by the upgrade. Across the field, he spots the orange ant squad huddled up. Curiosity peaks, so he hollers over to ask what the deal is. One zooms over, all hyped, reporting that they're scrubbing the monster corpses. He thinks that's sick. Talk about playing to your strengths. He gives her major props, telling her she's the absolute MVP of the sacred garden. The ant beams, literally glowing because Papa praised her. At this point, he just rolls with the whole dad title. Then he clocks the tiara she's rocking, guess she's the queen bee, or ant, the special one, in his army. Suddenly, he realizes he's burning daylight, time to bond with the colony later. He warps back to the bad dungeon. Instantly, Lucky is freaking out, screaming about an emergency. Locke goes into full panic mode, thinking it's another monster raid. But then, with huge puppy dog eyes, Lucky drops the bomb. The eggs hatched and the pantry is empty. Dude was just hangry. Later that night, outside the guild, Locke tells Lucky to chill for a bit while he gets Kara sorted. The beast agrees to hold down the fort. Locke kicks open the doors, Kara limp in his arms, only to find Kid throwing a massive tantrum. The guy is gaslighting everyone, insisting he had zero part in the dungeon disaster and that he's squeaky clean. Isaac backs him up, playing the victim card. We lost a friend. Why are you treating us like criminals? Rika isn't buying it, keeping the blockade tight with other adventurers. Then she spots Locke, approaching and tells him these clowns are denying everything. Kid immediately switches to nice guy mode, acting innocent, and begging Locke to clear the air, claiming the guild is being super suspicious of them for no reason. Locke plays along. I can't clear your name if the truth is dirty. He starts listing receipts he remembers clearly. How they struggled on the 4th floor and wounded Kara on the 5th just to use her as monster bait. He drops the mic. You stabbed me and left me as a snack for Fenrir. Caught red-handed. Isaac looks ready to throw hands, but Kid cuts him off, ordering him to chill. Kid gets in Locke's face, spinning the narrative. He accuses Locke of just being a bitter ex-party member, claiming he's chasing clout and spreading lies out of pure spite. He adds that Locke has zero evidence for these wild accusations. He mocks him, acting shocked that someone could lie so smoothly like it's a talent. And honestly, Locke realizes he doesn't have physical proof on hand. They get cocky, claiming that slandering a group without evidence is a crime. Since he's a hero in training, Locke could even get reported to the king, which would basically ruin him. That's when Locke pulls the ultimate power move. He yanks the broken blade fragment right out of his own neck wound. Here's your proof. Kid freezes, then stammers, claiming Locke did that to himself just to frame them. He glances at Isaac, who's lost his voice. Then Locke points to Kara. She's living proof you leave your friends to die. Seeing her friend's lifeless body, Emmy breaks down, sobbing apologies for abandoning her bestie. Locke watches her, eyes cold, not buying the crocodile tears yet. Kid doubles down. She died because she was weak trash. Not our fault. Locke cuts in. She was stabbed in the back by you and left to rot. The hero smirks, fully arrogant now. Dead girls tell no tales. You got nothing. Realizing this guy is a sociopath who won't confess, Locke leans down to wake Kara up. Hey, the guy who tried to murder you is talking smack. Let's shut him up. Suddenly, Kara mumbles something about a pretty dress. Emmy gasps, trying to shake her awake. Locke gives her another sharp slap to reboot her system. Boom, she's back, shocking the whole room. Emmy tackles her with a bone-crushing hug. Kara's gasping for air, but Locke intervenes. Save the reunion. We got a fake hero to roast. Kara locks eyes with the hero and sees red. Over being used as bait, she exposes him instantly. You monster, murderer. The crowd gasps their golden boy is actually a villain. With the smoking gun right there, Rika steps up and starts reading. Kid his rights, listing every single violation of the adventurer's code like a grocery list. Even if he is weighing the heavy sins on his conscience, the hero decides to strip himself of the title. With that drama settled, Locke bids farewell to Rika after all. Lucky is waiting for him outside. But just as he's about to bounce, Isaac drops to his knees right in front of him. It's a pathetic display. Isaac admits he was wrong, and actually begs Locke to lie and say the abandonment was a tragic necessity. The guy is desperate to cling to his status in an S-rank party, terrified that this scandal is going to strip everything away. Locke just sighs. It's obvious this clown hasn't learned a single thing. He looks Isaac in the eye and drops a bomb. He knew Kid was planning to stab him, and he let it play out. Isaac tries to play dumb, but Locke isn't buying it. He remembers hearing Kid ask Isaac if he was in on it. Bottom line, this was a setup from day one. They were always Dovlagus, planning to bleed him out and leave him to rot in that dungeon. Instead of apologizing, Isaac flips the script, getting salty and calling Locke an ungrateful brat. He claims he carried Locke for years, and this is the thanks he gets? He even has the audacity to claim he made Locke into an S-rank adventurer. Hearing this delusion, Rika lets out a tired sigh. Time for a reality check. Isaac is only S-rank because he rode Locke's coattails. Fact is, Locke is the only one in that squad with actual S-rank skills. The rest of them, mid-tier B or C ranks at best. Locke is shook hearing this. He spent his whole life thinking he was the weak link. Rika keeps it 100, assuring him that even if he'd teamed up with total noobs, his raw talent would have carried them to the same heights. Isaac snaps, screaming in frustration. He insists he's the alpha, stronger than Locke, and claims the receptionist is just spouting nonsense to prove a point. He throws down the gauntlet, a mission challenge. If Locke wins, Isaac accepts the demotion, but if Isaac wins, they wipe the slate clean. Locke thinks about passing on this mess. However, Rika accepts the terms on his behalf. Still, our MC makes one thing crystal clear. He ain't joining another party right now. Rika counters, suggesting he pair up with a rookie E-ranker to prove he can lead. If he pulls that off, she promises a reward that's actually worth his time. Since it's his first solo run, the nerves are hitting, but Locke accepts Isaac's challenge. Emmy and Kara are hopping in on the mission too. But Kid, he's benched. The so-called hero is officially under suspicion for murder. Kid just smirks, acting like he's untouchable. He claims that dirt is ancient history and impossible to prove now. But hold up, plot twist. A cloaked figure in the crowd screams out that he's got the receipts to testify. The guy drops the cloak, and Kid's face goes pale. He reveals he was part of an E-rank squad called Obsidian Lance, and they were Kid's previous victims. The hero immediately screams Cap, trying to deny it, but the witness doesn't stop. He drops the location where it went down, the Dungeon of Extinction. With zero fear, he exposes the truth. The hero attacked his own teammates and used them as live bait to save his own skin, pulling the exact same move he tried on Locke's group. The survivor tried to save his crew, but it was already too late. Still grieving, he dragged himself back to town and spilled the tea to everyone about what happened, but nobody believed a word. They all sided with the Golden Boy because of his shady connections to the royal capital. Crushed by guilt, he apologizes for not being strong enough to stop history from repeating itself. The crowd is shook, realizing how toxic and evil their hero really is. Rika steps up, declaring that this time, he isn't walking away. The evidence is stacked. Kid grinds his teeth, losing his cool and calling everyone pathetic. Mask off literally and figuratively. He drops the respectable hero act, draws his blade, and starts slashing at the adventurers trying to box him in. Rika screams at him to stop, adding more felonies to his rap sheet. But he's too far gone. He refuses to listen and literally spits at her for trying to lecture him. Desperate to avoid the guild's cuffs, he grabs Emmy and uses her as a human shield. Locke tries to talk him off the ledge, telling him it's not too late to surrender. That just triggers him more. He goes full psycho, cursing the guild and everyone around him for his downfall, demanding a path out if they want to see Emmy alive. As the crowd parts with caution, Kid makes a break for it, dragging Emmy by her clothes. Locke immediately sprints after them, but then, surprise, Kid and Emmy are already face-planted on the dirt. Lucky the MVP intercepted the escape plan. The hero is down for the count, and the divine beast is looking mighty proud of himself. Locke thanks Lucky for the clutch save and the takedown. The guards finally pile on Kid, securing him. Locke and the squad watch as the trash gets taken out, dragged straight to a Locke cell. Locke turns to his divine beast, giving him one more thank you for having his back, before shifting his focus. Locke tosses their gear back at them like it's trash. Total power move. Emmy steps up, looking completely defeated with her head hanging low. She's practically begging for forgiveness, guilt written all over her face for betraying him. Locke keeps it cool, telling her to just chill. He says he's over it. But then Isaac butts in, acting like nothing happened, casually telling Locke he can have his old spot back. The audacity. Like, let's just squash the beef and move on. Isaac thinks it's that easy, but Locke just lets out this heavy, tired sigh. He sees zero remorse in Isaac's eyes, so Locke hits him with a hard, nope, there is absolutely no chance he's going back. That reunion tour? Cancelled. Isaac takes it personally, grinding his teeth so hard you can practically hear them crack from the rage. Then Kara slides in, trying to finesse the situation. She claims since they both got played, they should team up. Locke shuts that down instantly. He reminds her she's a snake too, and he doesn't roll with traitors. Kara snaps, turning on Isaac. She blames him for wrecking the squad by recruiting that so-called hero without asking anyone first. Isaac claps back, screaming, "You're the one who said Locke was useless trash." They start going at each other's throats. Locke just stands there, watching the circus. Finally, Emmy yells at them to stop, admitting they messed up big time by doubting their friend. They stabbed him in the back just to save their own skins. The reality check hits hard, and they realize she's right. Silence falls over the room as the guilt sets in. Rika steps up to break the tension, shifting the vibe to business. She drops the details on their mandatory quest. It's a tricky one, ranging from rank C to rank B difficulty. Isaac gets his ego back instantly. He's thinking, we're C-rank pros, this is going to be a total cakewalk. But Locke is actually reading the fine print. He notices something specific about what Isaac's crew has to hunt. They need to farm specific drops, orango eggs, green frogs, and rainbow butterflies. And they only have 1 week. Locke asks if they can actually handle that, but Isaac completely brushes off his concern. He swears he can do anything to prove he's superior to Locke. But as he looks down at the quest paper, Isaac freezes. He asks Rika for clarification, but she just gives him this mysterious, creepy smile. She teases him, asking if he's quitting already. A cold shiver shoots straight down Isaac's spine. He realizes the guild is playing 4D chess. It's a punishment. Isaac is absolutely terrified of green frogs. Emmy has a massive phobia of bug monsters, and Kara hates orangos. The guild doesn't play nice with rule breakers. They messed up, and now they're being tested to save the guild's reputation. It's karma served cold. Isaac swallows his pride and accepts the nightmare quest. Once that toxic squad is finally gone, Rika shifts gears. It's time to hook Locke up with his new partner, Sanon. Since the prep takes a minute, She tells Locke to chill in the garden. As they head toward Sanon's quarters, Rika gets curious. She asks what his biggest red flag is in a teammate. Locke doesn't hesitate for a second. Betrayal. He also hates people who can't follow orders, they're just walking disasters. Then it hits him, Rika controls the quests. He asks if she's gonna be okay after all that drama earlier. She flashes a confident smile and drops a bomb. She's actually the vice chief's assistant. She's got real power, not just a receptionist NPC. That realization makes Locke pause. Flashback to 3 years ago, she took care of him back then. He starts wondering how old she must be to have that much clout, but he knows better than to ask a lady her age. He gets nervous and lies, saying he's just thinking about Sanon. Rika warns him that Sanon's situation is complicated, but she guarantees Sanon won't stab him in the back. She admits Sanon is paranoid, but has a good heart. They head to the training grounds for the meetup. They go deep underground, a restricted area Locke has never seen. The doors slide open, and his jaw drops. Meet Sanon, the elf. Locke is confused. Elves usually aren't adventurers. Then he spots it, the slave collar around her neck. Rika confirms his suspicion. She's a slave adventurer, property of the guild. And here's the kicker. Her last 5 masters? Dead. Every single one. 2 natural causes. 1 got poisoned. 1 took a long walk off a short cliff. And a monster ate the last one. That's how the guild got stuck with her. Her last owner owed the guild big money. Locke agrees these accidents sound super shady. That's not bad luck. That's a pattern. Sanon stares him down, warning him that she's a grim reaper. She tells him to run while he still can. But for Locke, it's already too late to turn back. Too late to back out now, he already took the gig. Suddenly, her gaze snaps into focus, weapon raised high. The blade presses right against his jugular. With a look that screams danger, she warns him to keep his distance, mocking him for failing to dodge such a basic, amateur strike. Stone-faced, he claps back. He didn't fail to dodge. He chose to take the hit. She grinds her teeth, absolutely rattled. Trembling with rage, she steps closer, demanding to know if he has a death wish. She admits she gave up on living a long time ago. The moment those chains went on, tears start streaming down her face as she begs him to walk away. She's sick and tired of watching people drop dead around her. He cuts in, calm as ever, promising her everything's gonna be fine. Snatching up a wooden training sword, he smirks. He's just the kind of guy who can't say no to a damsel in distress. She lunges again, but he stands his ground like a statue. Realizing he's not budging, she decides to go all out. Determined to force him back, she unleashes a rapid-fire combo of strikes. As he parries her onslaught, he realizes she's got speed and precision. She wasn't bluffing about pushing him back. Judging by her footwork, she's definitely put in the hours. But losing isn't in his vocabulary. He swings his weapon with raw, brutal force. Shannon's sword goes flying as she hits the dirt. He points out that textbook swordsmanship is way too predictable. Game over, she needs to yield. But she refuses to stay down. She launches herself at him, throwing a vicious kick to keep the pressure on. He clocks her solid foundation in martial arts immediately. But just like her swordplay, her brawling style is rough around the edges, lacking real combat experience. He catches her fist mid-air and slams her into the ground with overwhelming power. A cry of pain tears from her throat, yet she won't tap out, because her defeat means his death. She tries to convince him he won't die because of her. He tells her to just trust him, but she can't. That's the same line everyone else used right before they died. Still shaking from the impact, she declares there's no way she can beat him. Determined to stop her from sacrificing herself, he offers to show her exactly why he's unkillable. Time for the ultimate flex. He summons Lucky, and the massive Fenrir materializes. The wolf lets out a bone-chilling howl. Lucky is so terrifying he intimidates a bird right out of the sky. Shannon is completely floored, realizing he has the literal divine beast Fenrir as his pet. Shannon's mind drifts back to the past. In her memories, life is good with her little brother Sess, who is 5 years her junior. Born and raised in the elven village, she thought those happy days would last forever. But everything shattered the day Sess vanished. Her parents rushed into the woods to find him, telling her to stay put. Sitting still wasn't an option. She chased after them into the forest. Pushing deeper into the unknown, she ended up at the wizard's mansion. Their playground was the Forest of Affection, a sacred place where elves and humans swore an oath of friendship. Deep in those woods stood the mansion, rumored to be occupied by a wizard. But it was a forbidden zone for everyone except a chosen few. The place looked untouched. She doubted her brother was inside. Still, she crept forward, needing to see for herself, just to be sure. Pushing the door open, she was swallowed by the mansion's gloomy interior. Creeped out by the dead silence, she yelled out for anyone. Suddenly, a door on the second floor creaked open. She bolted up the stairs. Bursting into the room, she found her little brother passed out cold on a table. She rushed to his side, checking his vitals. He was breathing, Relief washed over her, and she decided to get him home immediately. That's when she felt eyes on her from above. Glancing up, she saw a shadowy spirit, staring daggers at her. She scooped up her brother and ran for the exit, but the door was locked tight. As the shadow closed in, she begged for her brother's life. Instead of listening, the dark spirit dove straight into her body. Her chest tightened in agony, and everything went black. When she came to, she was shocked to find herself back home. Cess was safe and sound, which was a huge relief. But after that day, the nightmare began. Living creatures around her started dropping dead, and with every death, the victims grew larger and larger. Then the worst-case scenario hit. The family horse dropped dead. She tried spilling the tea to her parents about the strange vibes, but they totally gaslit her. Terrified that her fam was next on the chopping block if she stayed, she made a brutal choice. She decided to ghost the village to save them from the bad juju she was carrying. But since she was just a sheltered village girl with zero street smarts, she ended up getting slapped in chains and sold into slavery. Luck turned around when she scored a master who was actually a total sweetheart. This old-timer schooled her on the world, leveling up her stats from clueless to woke so nobody could ever play her like a fiddle again. But happiness is fragile. 18 months later, the old man passed away peacefully. Deep down, she knew she was the toxic factor, even if she didn't want to admit it. Then the body count started rising. Master number 2, dead from sickness in just 3 months. The third guy took a nosedive off a cliff in under a week. The fourth one, straight up deleted himself with poison, and number 5 got shredded by beasts. She was so done with being a walking death sentence for everyone she touched. After that disaster streak, she earned the savage nickname the Reaper, and begged to be thrown in solitary, just to stop the collateral damage. But the guild wasn't hearing it. By the time they took her in, she was mentally fried and hanging by a thread. That's when Rika stepped into her cell, dropping an offer to join a squad as an adventurer. Thanks to her massive trauma, she was in her lone wolf era. To dodge teaming up with anyone, she'd trauma dump her backstory immediately, sending adventurers running for the hills. Sometimes she'd literally throw hands just to stay solo, protecting her isolation. Until she met this one guy, stubborn as a mule, who refused to catch the hint, greeting her with a wholesome smile instead of fear. She tried to ghost him like the others, but he wasn't quitting. She heard rumors he got booted from an S-rank party, but his power level was off the charts. Desperate, she went full tryhard in their duel. To scare him off, she threw everything she had at him, but the dude just kept walking forward like a tank. Then the bomb dropped. His partner was the legendary beast, Fenrir. It felt like a fever dream. She flashed back to how everyone treated her like a plague because of her curse. She had resigned herself to suffering until the bitter end. But meeting Locke? Total game changer. For the first time in her tragic life, she felt a spark of hope. Maybe, just maybe, she could break this curse and actually see the world. With that thought living rent-free in her head, her system crashed from the emotional overload. She passed out, but for once, she looked totally at peace. Rika hauled her off for some much-needed R&R, while Locke watched the whole thing with a mission-accomplished vibe. Locke's attention shifts to Fenrir. The divine beast is low-key panicking, thinking his earlier howl was a flop, but Locke chills him out, assuring him it was clutch, and stopped the brawl perfectly. Hearing that, the big guy finally relaxes. Then the question is, what to do with the bird that dropped out of the sky, mid-howl? The system asks Locke if he wants to recruit the feathered friend, who is basically begging to join the squad. Locke swipes right, accepting the bird and sending it to the sanctuary. Lucky immediately wonders if the bird tastes like chicken, but Locke shuts that down fast. Friends are not food. Right then, he spots Sannon and checks in to see if she's cooling off. She hangs her head, apologizing for going aggro on him earlier. Locke plays it cool, telling her he gets it. She was just doing what she thought she had to do. She thanks him and drops a truth bomb. She wants to explore the world with him as her guide. He digs her honesty and promises to team up. She's down, and they seal the deal with a fist bump. Lucky gets hyped for her and tries to copy the fist bump. She says it's all good, instantly vibing with the wolf. Suddenly, Lucky clocks something dark. He confirms she's under a nasty, evil spirit curse that sucks the life out of everything around her. If they don't fix it, it's literally going to game over her. Since this has been haunting her forever, she asks if there's any cheat code to break the curse. But Lucky's got nothing, and Locke admits he's clueless about curses too, so he's no help. Then, Lucky bows his head for a sec and chomps down on Locke's head. While Locke is panicking, covered in wolf drool, a massive data dump of knowledge floods his brain. After processing the info, Locke realizes his familiar is actually insanely OP. Now, armed with intel, Lucky hypes him up to find a fix and purge that curse for good. Just then, Guildmaster Titus and Rika bust into the room, interrupting the moment. Locke is completely blindsided by the surprise visit, totally caught off guard. He was absolutely shook by this sudden drop-in. Locke stares in total disbelief. Did he just hear that right? Titus is actually refusing to let him purge the curse. Here is the catch. Sinan is technically guild property a slave, and according to the bureaucratic rulebook, no unlicensed random is allowed to perform a high-level dispel ritual. Locke calls absolute garbage on this red tape because they are sitting on a ticking time bomb and Sinan could get wrecked. Titus raises a hand, warning Locke he is starting to crash out like Isaac, letting emotions drive the bus. That hits home. The kid cools off and mumbles an apology. Titus softens the blow, telling him to take a breath, admitting things have been chaotic lately. Locke nods along with the guild master, but then his brain clicks. He spots an opening. He asks the million-dollar question. If Sinan stops being an employee, can I break the curse then? A sly smirk tugs at Titus's lips. The old man loves it. Sharp kid. He cuts to the chase. Locke needs to buy Sanon's contract from the guild. That is the loophole. If he steps up and buys her out, she is no longer on the payroll, and he is free to shatter that curse. Locke is down to help, but damn, that is a massive life decision out of nowhere. Titus grins, asking what Locke thinks the guild actually stands for. The kid gives the textbook answer, to support adventurers. Sure, that is part of it, but Titus drops some wisdom. The guild exists to facilitate happiness. That is why Isaac's snake-like betrayal cannot fly. Kicking them out would be the standard move, but that wouldn't teach those clowns a thing. He wants this mission to be a wake-up call. He wants everyone to find their happy ending, especially Locke, who took all that heat from his toxic ex-party. Titus shifts his gaze to Sanon. She has been through the grinder too, yet she still puts others first. In a lot of ways, these two are cut from the same cloth. They know what real struggle tastes like. Honestly, they would make a killer power duo. Hearing this, Locke is shook. He thought he was alone in this, but it turns out the big boss was actually paying attention the whole time. He turns to Sinan, locking eyes with her. What do you want to do? She hesitates, falling back on her I am just a slave mindset. But deep down, if she had a say, she wants to roll with Locke. That seals it. He is taking her. He asks for the price tag, but Titus waves it off. What a coincidence. The mission reward covers her cost exactly. Locke scratches his cheek, thinking that is way too convenient to be an accident. Deal signed. Locke steps up to delete that curse, implanted by the dark spirit. He starts chanting the dispel mantra, dragging the entity out of Sanon's shadow. But the thing fights back. It tries to jump bodies and consume Locke entirely. He grits his teeth, pushing harder, until a blinding white light erupts from his hands, obliterating the shadow into dust. Locke collapses. Running on empty, Titus gives him props for the clean work. Locke gasps out a thank you, grateful for the guidance. Then Titus drops a bomb. For a first-timer, breaking an archdemon's curse is absolutely insane. Burning with curiosity, the kid grills him about the curse's true nature. Even though he's totally out of his depth, Titus breaks it down. This isn't the first time. From what he's gathered, this nightmare stems from summoning demons that used to rule the entire world. Locke definitely would have appreciated a heads up that they were dealing with a legit demonic hex, but honestly, he's just vibing that they survived. Shannon steps up, thanking him for obliterating her curse. Locke flashes a reassuring grin, and even Lucky is hyped that things worked out. Titus snaps them back to reality time to grind and gather materials. Gotta beat Isaac's squad to the punch. He kickstarts the prep and warps the whole crew straight to the sanctuary garden. Shannon is absolutely floored. It's like a whole other dimension hiding inside his bracelet. Catching a glimpse of her glowing smile, Locke is totally captivated. But the moment she catches him staring, Shannon teases the poor guy, leaving him blushing hard. She pivots, pointing at the skybird, asking if that creature is another one of his buddies. Skybirds are ultra-rare spawns, usually cruising at altitudes that make them impossible to even spot. She's seriously impressed he's tamed such OP beasts, especially high-tier monsters like Fenrir. While they're chatting, Lucky's stomach starts growling. He hits Locke up for some grub. The second his familiar brings it up, Locke realizes he's starving too. Lucky perks up, bragging that he ordered the orange ants to drag in some monsters for a feast. Locke scans the area, 0 ants in sight. Lucky casually drops the bomb that they built a dungeon under the hut. Locke is shook. The trio heads over to check out the dungeon Lucky mentioned, finding a massive crater in the field. Shannon can't believe her eyes when she spots orange ants, rocking human forms. And the kicker? She's stunned to hear them calling Locke Daddy. Lucky trolls him immediately. The kid frantically tries to explain to Shannon that he was just there when the egg hatched. Assuming it's some dark, twisted secret, she promises to keep her lips sealed. Lucky shoots him a side-eye smirk, making the cringe factor skyrocket. The master and his familiar keep trading, shady looks and roasting each other non-stop, leaving Shannon wondering what the heck is going on. They're having a blast without her, and it feels totally unfair. It's super frustrating, mostly because she can't understand a word, Lucky says. Only Locke speaks his language, although she somehow understands the ants, which is wild. The ant reveals she actually has the skill to speak human tongue. Unlike the mindless drones, she's fluent. As the general of her army, that's pretty impressive stuff. Now it clicks why she's got such high-level negotiation skills and can bark out structured commands to the squad. To loop Shannon in on Lucky's chatter, the ant casts a skill on her, unlocking the ability to understand other languages. Lucky gives it a test run, and magically, she understands the divine beast perfectly. Locke is stunned. He realizes there's still a ton of lore he hasn't uncovered. The elf thanks her for the new perk, and the two of them vibe instantly. Suddenly, Locke realizes he never actually named the ant. He decides to dub her Petra. The ant literally jumps for joy, hyped to finally have an identity. She begs him to name the others too, and he agrees. Problem is, they're total clones, so coming up with names is a struggle. He lazily goes with Orange A through Orange E. They look pretty salty about it at first, but then start celebrating just to have names at all. Seeing them so pumped, he resolves to give them proper names once their unique vibes shine through. Then he asks Petra about the underground base they built. Petra gives him the grand tour, showing off the cold storage where they stash the meat, and the drying room where they cure the leather, she points out. The vault where they hoard all the magic stones found while digging. He's blown away by how complex this dungeon is, especially since they speedran the construction. He gives major props to Petra and her ants for the grind. He was freaked out by the dungeon talk, but it's basically just a high-tech nest for Petra's crew. Since they're stocked on meat, it's an all-you-can-eat buffet. Later, Locke hits up the market and realizes he completely forgot the cooking gear. With time ticking down, he decides to just whip up some chicken, fried style. It's a no-brainer recipe. Dip in batter, toss in oil. It pairs perfectly with cabbage. So he goes to grab some greens, but the vendor drops the bad news. They're completely sold out of cabbage. Locke looks absolutely crushed. He was dying to serve up his masterpiece for the squad to taste. Suddenly, a voice cuts through the air. "You really got time to waste on that garbage?" Locke snaps his head back. It's Isaac, flanked by his crew, wearing that signature punchable smirk. Isaac doubles down. "Get on your knees and beg, and maybe I'll let you back in." Sinan steps up instantly, shielding Locke. Isaac blinks, totally confused. "Who's the random?" Locke cuts in, murmuring to Sanan to just ghost him. He locks eyes with Isaac. "We're done here. Zero ties. So quit wasting my oxygen." That hits a nerve. Isaac lunges at Sinan, but Lucky is a blur of motion, intercepting the strike effortlessly. Locke's eyes go cold. "Control yourself. Eyes on your own game." Isaac grinds his teeth, fuming. He sneers, "Bet the guild saddled you with this elf just to sabotage you." But then he actually looks at her, really looks, and realizes she's zero threat. She looks like total NPC fodder. He laughs, taunting Locke. "With dead weight like that, you'll never hit your peak." "That does it." Sanan explodes. "Locke isn't weak. You have no idea what he's capable of. He's not some trash you can just toss away." Isaac just gives a condescending chuckle. "Know your place, girl." Then Kara pipes up, eyeing the elf. "This your new sidekick?" Locke nods, introducing Sinan, an E-rank adventurer. Kara looks her up and down. Yikes, that outfit? Tragic. "If you're rolling with Locke, fix your look." Locke snaps back. "Worry about your own life, Kara. Fashion doesn't slay monsters." Kara rolls her eyes, salty as ever. "I never thought you'd stoop to a bottom-tier scrub." Suddenly, Emmy steps in, cutting the tension. She apologizes to Sanan for the disrespect, then bows deeply to Locke, guilt written all over her face. She admits she almost quit, but she needs this one last fight against him just to see where she stands. It's the only way she can move on. Isaac interrupts, barking orders to move out, but drops a final warning to Locke. "Bring your A game, or I'm crushing you." As they storm off, Sanan nudges Locke. "We should bounce too." Locke flashes a grin, totally unbothered. "Relax. We got this. I've got a new reason to win now. A real motivation. But first, food." Back at camp, Lucky is creating absolute chaos, trying to handle the cornmeal. Locke scolds him. "Quit playing with the food." But Lucky insists. He's not playing. He's sous-chefing. He tries again, and fails. Spectacularly. The crew cracks up at the clumsy attempt. Finally, prep is done, and Locke drops his secret weapon, his signature, extra, crispy fried chicken. They dig in, and one bite changes everything. Pure bliss. It's heaven on a plate, shatteringly crisp skin, juicy perfection inside. Locke warns. "Sinan, easy. It's piping hot." She nods, but she's already inhaling the food, because it's just that addictive. The rest of the squad goes full feast mode, until they're stuffed. Post-dinner, Locke spreads out the map. Next stop, Verdun Dungeon. We are talking a grueling 2 or 3 day carriage ride, and the raid itself? That usually eats up about a week. The terrain is a nightmare, nothing but treacherous swamps and dense, unforgiving forests. But, Lok points a finger, we cut straight through. We're there in under half a day. He analyzed Isaac's gear, and the carriage tracks. They're taking the standard tourist route. They'll get bogged down in the woods. Unless they've got a cheat code, he doubts they'll risk the shortcut. It's an easy win. Sanan finally gets his cockiness. Now that they're rested and fueled up, they decide to head out. They hop on Lucky's back and plunge into the forest. Sanan whispers a sorry to the beast for the extra weight. Lucky just grunts, he doesn't mind. Locke smirks. The forest is silent. Every monster is hiding, terrified of Lucky. Suddenly, a scream rips through the trees. Someone's begging for help nearby. Must be a monster attack. Locke signals Lucky to circle back and check. Who's bawling their eyes out? But when they arrive, total shock. It's a gargoyle, sobbing uncontrollably. Feeling threatened, the creature panics and unleashes a blast of wind magic. They barely dodge the strike. But Lucky takes that personally. He starts charging energy in his maw, and Locke watches, thinking, now that's power. But he freezes instantly. He realizes Lucky is charging up an absolutely insane amount of energy. The royal capital is directly in the firing line. This blast could wipe the city off the map. Cold sweat drips as Lucky signals he can't stop the launch. He unleashes the power. Locke throws himself between that sphere of destruction and the city, casting a shield in a split second. He's trying to tank the hit to minimize the fallout. But the beam is so overpowered, he's fighting just to keep his footing. Even while taking damage, he refuses to fold. He manages to slice the attack in two, diffusing the catastrophic impact. Gasping for air, Locke actually pulls it off. Everyone survives. While Lucky tries to act cool and distance himself, Sanan rushes over, asking if he's good. He nods, assuring her he's fine, just relieved to see his squad is safe and sound. Suddenly, she spots it. His hands are a bloody mess. Locke tries to shrug it off like it's nothing. He claims a basic healing potion will fix it in a snap. He grabs a vial from his inventory, straight from his garden supply. He downs it, and boom, wounds healed instantly. Sanon's face lights up. She is totally shook by how OP that potion is. Meanwhile, Lucky bows his head, apologizing to his master for causing trouble again. But instead of scolding the beast, Locke thanks him for having their backs, pointing out that he was just trying to protect them from the monster threat. However, he drops some wisdom. With mana that wild, Lucky needs to learn how to control the output, so they don't have any more close calls. The divine beast sniffs, overwhelmed by his master's chill reaction. Unable to hold back, he lets out a massive, happy howl. Then, Locke shifts gears. He looks at the gargoyle, who instantly panics, backs away, and screams monster at him. Locke is like, excuse me? Clearly not the villain here. He asks why the creature was sobbing earlier. The gargoyle spills the tea. It was just deeply depressed. After getting fired from the demon army. Apparently, it was built from scrap materials, so its mana stats are trash tier. It was stuck on janitor duty, cleaning the Dark Castle for 100 years. But when new management took over, they decided they didn't need a monster whose only skill was pushing a broom. It wandered the forest, totally aimless. Eventually, it stumbled upon a village, but the villagers chased it out immediately. It had never seen humans before, having only known the castle walls. That rejection hit hard. It felt miserable, realizing how incomplete and broken it was. As a monster, tears start streaming again as it questions why it even exists. Locke is confused. He notes that gargoyles are usually the elite spec ops of the demon army, requiring massive mana just to create one. It's hard to believe someone would craft a gargoyle so carelessly, using leftovers? Crazy. He asks what it wants to do now. Still confused, the gargoyle can't make a decision, and starts crying again. Feeling bad for the little guy and overwhelmed by the situation, Locke drops the invite. You want to join my exploration team? The gargoyle is stunned. It's just a weak monster, a glorified janitor, and yet, he wants it on the roster? Locke replies, that scrubbing floors for a century definitely unlocked a unique skill tree, and that dedication alone is a flex. The creature finally perks up, thanking him for giving its life a new purpose. Right on cue, the garden voice asks if he wants to add the sealed gargoyle to the party. Hearing that, Locke clocks it. Its power isn't low, it's sealed. The creature reveals it was made by the Demon King himself, 2 generations ago. Even with the mystery piling up, Locke officially recruits the gargoyle. He nicknames her Gargo and teleports her to the sanctuary garden. Ping. Locke gets a notification. The garden is ready to level up, thanks to the new Beast Edition. He carefully scrolls through the upgrade menu and decides to expand the cabin this time. Construction complete, they hit the road again. Locke notices a village nearby and spots wild cabbages growing. He grabs one, amazed that veggies can survive in a savage place like this. Seeing Lucky gassed out, he decides to call it a day and camp here. Gotta recharge before moving on. The next morning, the squad pushes through the forest, following the GPS, or rather, Gargo's directions. The village is close, so they stick to the path. Finally, they roll up to the settlement. Locke tries to wake the gatekeeper NPC, but gets zero response. Sanon gives it a shot too, but the old guy just grumbles in his sleep. When he finally cracks an eye open, he can't believe the beauty he's seeing. Sanon. He thinks his time is up, convinced he's looking at an angel before dying. Filled with regret, his face twists. He leans in for a kiss, but Lucky shuts that down instantly, slamming him face first into the dirt until he is staring at a rock. The guy accuses Locke of ditching him. Locke corrects the old man immediately. We're adventurers, fam. We just stumbled onto this village on our way to a dungeon. Hearing the word adventurers, the man's whole vibe changes. He looks relieved because this village is dealing with some serious drama. Locke scans the area. It is tragic. People are practically skin and bones, starving. The village chief steps up to welcome the squad. Locke introduces his crew. The chief glares at the village guard and throws shade. Look who finally decided to wake up and do his job. We actually got pros when we needed them most. The guard tries to clap back though. He brags about scaring off a gargoyle that was threatening the village. The chief bursts out laughing. You? Solo a monster? Please. They keep roasting each other until Locke has to step in and break it up. So, what is the actual problem here? The chief apologizes for the scene and clears his throat to get serious. It started about 6 months ago. Goblins began popping up over in the Green Garden Swamp. After that, the goblins raided the village, swiping what little food was left. Total nightmare. The local men tried to fight back, but got absolutely wrecked. Out of options, the chief begs the squad for help. Please, save us before we are wiped out. Locke ponders the situation. Goblins are smarter than your average beast. That makes this challenge way harder. The chief adds that they begged the kingdom and the guild for help, but since they are broke, no adventurers would take the gig. Locke weighs his options. He wants to be the hero here, but you cannot survive on charity alone. Plus, if they do not learn to sustain themselves, this disaster will just repeat itself. He makes the call. We are in. He demands a map of the zone to track down the goblin hideout. He figures he can handle the threat. His price for the job? I want cabbages. Specifically from the field they passed earlier. The villagers agree, hyped that their nightmare is ending. However, Locke holds up a finger. To stop this cycle, he will help rebuild the village economy. The price? 20% of all future revenue. From the village. The chief freezes. That is a massive decision to make solo. Locke pauses for a second, and sweetens the deal. If you guys help with the mission, I will drop it to 10%. The chief is still sweating it, but he takes it to the villagers to discuss. It is their sweat equity on the line since they would be doing the work. Locke promises to secure their food supply so they can actually thrive. Seeing them wobble on the decision, he breaks it down. Your main issue? You are completely cut off from the big cities. Your fields are trash, meaning no trade and no lifeline to the outside world for help. I could do this for free, but that does not help you long term. You need to stand on your own 2 feet. The chief nods. He gets it. He asks for more time to rally the troops and get a consensus. Locke wonders how this will play out. Honestly, the upside for the village is massive, so it is hard to imagine them saying no. In the meantime, the squad helps prep for the raid. He tells Sanon to grab him when the chief is ready. Later, Locke and the chief sit down again to hash out the details. The chief admits the villagers were split at first, but after crunching the numbers, the proposal looks solid. If Locke can actually deliver on sustainable farming and goblin extermination, it is a steal. However, one villager, Warren, is not buying it. This sounds too good to be true. We are getting played. He swears that once he heals up, he will go wipe out those goblins himself, the ones threatening the village. Seeing the wounded villagers, Locke decides to flex his special healing potion. He offers it to Warren, but the guy refuses, thinking it is poison. To prove it is safe, Locke lets Sanon take the first swig. She accepts happily, knowing Locke's brews are top tier. She chugs it and instantly glows up, energized and refreshed. Usually, healing potions taste like garbage, but Locke's? Delicious. Seeing this, Lucky demands a taste too. Locke agrees, and pours the potion into his familiar's mouth. Lucky lights up, raving about the flavor and the power boost. Locke turns back to Warren. Your turn. The man grabs the bottle, determined to prove it is a scam. He downs it, and boom, instantly healed and recharged. This tastes like apples. He has never had anything this good. It is like discovering magic for the first time. The old man's jaw hits the floor as he flexes his leg. Zero pain. Instant mobility. It's a straight-up miracle. Luke cuts a deal. He needs supplies for the mission, and in exchange, unlimited potions for the wounded. Realizing this kid is the real deal and not some scammer, Warren does a total 180. He pledges full support, apologizing profusely for ever doubting the guy. He humbly begs Luke to lend his power to the village. You can feel the tension vanish. Smiles everywhere. Now that Luke and the locals have locked in that trust, and with zero objections to the plan, the pact is sealed. That calls for a celebration. Later, the whole village throws down a massive feast, but they're totally shook by one detail: how actually fire the cabbage tastes. They always thought that green stuff was just garbage food for horses. Luke drops some culinary knowledge, saying cabbage works in tons of dishes. Then, he pulls a slick move, slipping a healing potion directly into the stew. Suddenly, the sick villagers start feeling brand new after just one bite. He calls over Sannon and tasks her with taking Orange to guard the villagers on a fetch quest. She hesitates, feeling way out of her depth to handle a solo mission like that. But Luke shuts down the doubt, assuring her she's got the skills to wreck any local monsters. Plus, the orange ants might be tiny, but they're absolute tanks. Hyped up by his confidence in her, she vows to crush it. Meanwhile, the rest of the squad focuses on blazing a trail to the royal capital. Kroll points out they need this road for trade routes, and to sort out their supply chain issues before sending anyone out. Luke casts a massive support buff to spike their speed and stamina. With this upgrade, they can speedrun the tasks. He warns them the mana boost is on a timer, it won't last forever, so don't burn out. Sannon is starry-eyed again, stunned that he just casually dropped an AoE buff on that many people. He tells her with her mana pool, she'll master spells like that in no time, promising to train her once the dust settles. The villagers get to grinding on the road, attacking the work with serious hype and focus. Even Luke and Lucky jump in to get their hands dirty. As the sun starts dipping below the horizon, Luke calls it a wrap. Looking at the progress, the pavement is practically done, they'll finish by tomorrow. All thanks to Luke's magic hacks. The construction was a breeze, and trade can start as soon as possible. The team celebrates the win, and Luke cracks a smile watching them. He honestly thinks this crew is too good for him. When night falls, he chills in the garden, analyzing a map. Sannon brings him some tea. He notices she's still in work mode and tells her she needs to crash first, pointing out she outworked everyone today and needs to recharge. She refuses to sleep before her master does, insisting she'll rest later. Luke sighs and asks her to drop the master title and the formal talk. It makes him cringe. He doesn't see a slave, he sees a teammate. She beams at that, realizing he's genuinely a good soul, feeling incredibly lucky and grateful their paths crossed. He flashes a reassuring grin back, admitting he's just as thankful to have found her. Getting back to business, he decides that tomorrow is market day in the capital. He'll have the villagers harvest the cabbage. With the current food shortage, they're going to make a killing. He also figures it's time to accept that guild commission and clear the mission. There's also a gut feeling that Titus is plotting something shady, even if the details are fuzzy. Deep in thought, he notices Sannon dozed off sitting up. Chuckling at the sight, he casts a gentle sleep spell to help her rest. Peacefully. It's dead silent in the monster world. Every creature is snoozing. Luke creeps out of the cabin to avoid waking the squad. Surprise, surprise. Lucky is outside waiting for him. They both know night is prime time for catching rainbow dragonflies. Lucky insists on tagging along, claiming no monster would dare attack with him there. He then asks Luke what the plan is for the goblins. Surprisingly, Luke says it's chill. He knows some random adventurer is bound to show up and wipe them out. Lucky doesn't get the logic but drops it. The duo spends the night having a blast snagging rainbow dragonflies in the woods with nets. The next morning, Luke wakes up in his own bed, hearing someone humming in the kitchen. Figuring it's Shannon making breakfast, he heads out. Locke steps out of his room ready to help, expecting to see Shannon. Instead, instant plot twist. It's Gargo. And he's not just cooking. The massive monster is rocking a frilly pink apron like it's high fashion. The sight of a literal gargoyle playing house husband is too much. Locke lets out a terrified scream. Gargo just blinks, asking if he's good. Locke stammers that he's fine and tries to step in, but Gargo shuts him down. This kitchen is his domain. At the Demon Lord's castle, Shannon rolls up with a cheerful morning, apologizing for crashing next to Locke last night. Locke ignores the awkwardness, spotting a wooden training sword in her grip. He asks if she's grinding XP. She gets salty, asking if he seriously went solo hunting rainbow dragonflies last night. Locke plays it cool, reassuring her that he had Lucky watching his back the whole time. Shannon pouts, feeling useless for missing the action. Locke hypes her up, promising they'll squad up for the next run. The elf starts tearing up, making him pinky promise. Locke tosses the dragonfly wings to Warren for a guild delivery, while he hops into a horse-drawn carriage bound for the capital. Watching Warren bounce from the village, Locke's mind starts racing through his massive to-do list for the territory. We get a montage of Locke coaching villagers on plowing and cabbage planting, securing that food supply and cash flow. Fast forward to nightfall, and the whole village is vibing. They're celebrating the finished road construction. Locke gives major props to Petra and the Orange Ants for their stonework, calling it straight-up master-tier craftsmanship. An old lady walks right up to the monsters, admitting she's done being scared thanks to their kindness. Meanwhile, the village chief pulls Locke aside to say thanks, but he looks skeptical. He asks if Locke is for real, about only taking 10% of the profits after saving their skins. Locke doesn't even blink, he's cool with it. The chief swears he'll always pay up, no matter what. Cut to later that night, Locke and the Orange ants raid the orangutan turf, snatching eggs and getting chased by gator-looking freaks. Meanwhile, Squad B, Lucky, Shannon, Petra, and Gargo hit the green frog zone and secure an emerald. Mission complete. Both crews head back to the village for a massive feast with the locals. Elsewhere, Isaac's crew is rolling out in a carriage, heading straight for the dungeon. Next morning in the monster garden, Locke and his beast squad are chilling in the field. A tiny bird lands on Locke's shoulder, and he's shook seeing something that small. Surviving in this monster pit, Petra IDs it as an esquibird. She explains that while they were looting monster corpses, she found this weird chestnut-looking object. The esquibird ate it and shrank instantly. She suggests finding a cure to big-size him again, but notices the little guy gets visibly depressed at the idea. Locke pivots immediately. Actually, staying small is a vibe. He figures it's fine since it'll probably wear off eventually. The bird perks up. Suddenly, a foul smell hits Locke. He tracks the stench to Lucky. Yo, when was the last time you took a bath? Lucky avoids eye contact. Yesterday. Locke calls the bluff. We were together all day, dude. Lucky switches up. Day before yesterday? Then he snaps. I don't need a bath. Locke declares operation. Scrub Lucky is officially a go. The squad accepts the mission, treating it like a game. Lucky smirks, convinced he's untouchable. Locke casts support magic on the crew, boosting their physical stats. Lucky laughs it off, claiming some basic buffs won't close the power gap between them. Petra steps up first to rush the wolf. Lucky calls her naive for thinking she can solo him. She spits a web stream, but the wolf sidesteps and gloats, claiming that weak attack missed by a mile. That's when Petra signals the backup. Lucky freezes the other orange ants have already surrounded him. They unleash a web barrage, binding his limbs tight. The ants celebrate the W while Locke gives Petra head pats for successfully baiting him into a trap. Locke tells Lucky to accept his fate, but the wolf snaps the webs on his feet. Snatching up the fragments in a blur, he hog-tees those orange ants before they can blink. Lucky's hyped, giving them props for actually slowing him down. But let's be real, it wasn't enough to hold him. The ants are straight up sobbing, admitting they took the L. Gargo steps into the spotlight, ready to throw hands with Lucky. The wolf grins, asking if the gargoyle seriously thinks he stands a chance. Gargo starts flexing, warning Lucky not to sleep on him. He's a gargoyle with a solid 100 years of combat XP under his belt. Powered up by Locke's support buffs, Gargo locks in, stance wide, and ready to rumble. But Lucky? He just swats the gargoyle away with a single, lazy tail flick. KO. Smirking, Lucky asks who's next on the menu. Sanan steps up to the plate, gripping her wooden practice sword. Lucky tells her to quit playing games if she wants to dance. She better bring the heat. Sanan nods, and draws cold, hard steel, charging the wolf. She lunges for a pierce, but Lucky sidesteps it like it's nothing, roasting her weak attempt. That just triggers the elf to unleash a full-blown combo of slashes. But Lucky's untouchable, weaving through every single strike with zero effort. Eventually, though, Sanan's aim starts getting scary precise. The wolf starts sweating a little. Lucky watches her, push forward again, and finds himself giving ground. Suddenly, it clicks. Sanan baited him right into a dead end against a rock wall, leaving him totally boxed in. Sanan levels her blade at his nose and demands he finally takes that bath. In a split second, Lucky's tail snaps forward, the tip hovering at her throat like a dagger. Sanan drops her weapon, throwing up the white flag. Still, Lucky gives her major props for leveling up her swordsmanship. The elf cracks a smile, thanking him for noticing the grind. Lucky locks eyes with Locke, the last man standing. The giant wolf is hyped for this showdown, warning Locke that he better bring his A-game. Locke draws his twin daggers, and the two face off, grinning like maniacs. Suddenly, a sweet scent hits Lucky's nose, totally chilling him out. Perched right on top of the giant wolf's head is the esquire bird, clutching a flower in its beak. 1 second later, Lucky gets heavy-lidded and crashes out cold. That's when Locke realizes the thing in the bird's beak is a sleep flower. The esquire bird shoots them a smug look, acting like the MVP. Locke rounds up the squad, who realize it's the perfect window to finally scrub Lucky down. Meanwhile, Isaac's crew is closing in on the Verdun dungeon. Inside the carriage, Isaac is still fuming, literally shaking with rage. He keeps ranting about how Locke stabbed them in the back. Emmy cuts in, reminding him that they were the ones who betrayed Locke first. Isaac snaps, barking at her to shut her mouth. He thinks back on how Locke was just a pack mule lugging their gear, while he was the one on the front lines, crushing monsters to chase that S-rank glory. Then Kid's words echo in his head, calling them a bunch of E-rank losers without luck. Just the thought makes Isaac grind his teeth and clench his fist. He swears he'll prove their S-rank material, even without luck. Kara and Emmy drop a reality check. They can't handle the orangutans or those rainbow dragonflies. They're terrified of them. Isaac waves it off since the main loot is the weevils anyway. But Kara is fed up with Isaac's vibe and demands to know why he's always tripping on an ego power trip. She calls him out for taking jobs, without even reading the fine print, dragging them into his mess. She reminds him that she and Emmy are only sticking around because they have to, and the second this mission wraps, the party is over. Isaac shrugs it off, telling them they can do whatever, as long as he stays the boss of this op. The driver shouts that they've arrived at the dungeon. Isaac tosses a few silver coins for the ride. The driver gripes that it's light, making Isaac feel cheap and humiliated. Flustered, Isaac forks over more cash just to make the guy leave. His mood takes a nosedive, feeling like he just took another L, but he tries to shake it off. The trio steps into the dungeon. Meanwhile, Lucky is so fresh and fluffy that Locke and the whole monster fam can't stop cuddling him. Isaac and the crew scout the dungeon. He reminds the squad the only target matters are the weevils down in the depths. They ghost the orangutans on the way. Isaac notices there aren't any rainbow, dragonflies, or green frogs anywhere. The gator-looking orangutans are still hanging around, but the eggs are MIA. Isaac complains they can't farm anything like this. He figures the guild must have set them up. Grinding his teeth, convinced the guild played him, he vows revenge. Out of nowhere, a goblin jumps him from behind. Isaac slices the thing in half before it even hits the ground. In the distance, they spot a goblin mob led by a beast twice the size of the others. Isaac zooms in and sees the giant is rocking a massive sword and full-plate metal armor. He clocks it immediately. It's a goblin knight. Isaac and his crew gear up for the showdown. He lunges straight at the goblin knight, but the monster sidesteps the strike like it's nothing. The knight claps back with a counter, and Isaac barely blocks, boots skidding across the dirt as he struggles to hold his ground. Suddenly, Locke's voice echoes in his head, mocking them, calling them a bunch of useless E-ranks without him. Rage spikes in Isaac's chest as he violently rejects that thought. He refuses to believe it, gritting his teeth. There is absolutely no universe where he loses to a basic goblin knight. But reality hits hard. He's getting overpowered. Sweat drips down his face, and his jaw is clenched tight enough to crack a tooth. He's giving it 100% just to stay standing. Boom! Out of nowhere, a blast of fire magic roasts the knight from behind. Emmy calls out, asking if he's good. Does he thank her? Nope. Being the stubborn guy he is, he claims he had it under control the whole time. Kara rolls her eyes, pointing out he was clearly getting wrecked. But the drama pauses. They realize they're completely surrounded by the horde. After a chaotic brawl, they drop every single goblin. Kara steps up, using her holy magic to patch up the squad's wounds. Isaac's group pushes deeper into the dungeon until they spot a massive hill guarded by a swarm of wyverns. They crouch in the bushes, scouting the targets. Isaac decides to play tank, volunteering to draw aggro so the girls can set up. The plan? Emmy snipes the wings with magic while he distracts them. The team nods. It's go time. Isaac sprints straight at the beasts. The wyverns take flight to dodge, but Emmy unleashes a rapid-fire barrage of fireballs. Bullseye. 2 wyverns crash land hard. Isaac wastes no time, rushing in and finishing them off with his blade. Just as Isaac starts feeling himself, he spots a nightmare scenario. A third wyvern is diving straight for Emmy and Kara. Smack! The beast's tail sweeps them, launching the girls across the field. Isaac scrambles over, heart pounding, checking for a pulse. Kara is furious. She snaps at Isaac, screaming that Locke never would have let a wyvern sneak up on them like that. Hearing Locke's name triggers him. Isaac gets super defensive, shouting back that he simply didn't know another one was there. He doubles down, telling Kara she needs to learn how to defend herself instead of relying on him. Bad move. That's the last straw. The saint loses it, yelling that she's done with him. She grabs Emmy, and they both walk away. Isaac yells that they can't just bail. Kara shoots back that she can't keep going like this. Isaac freezes, totally shook. He watches them disappear, body trembling with pure rage. It hits him, even his own team is ditching him. Trauma unlocks. He remembers his dad's harsh words. Locke was superior in every way, and Isaac was nothing but a disappointment. Isaac snaps, completely. As the wyverns swarm him from behind, a twisted, maniacal grin spreads across his face. He vows to ruin Locke's mission no matter what. He slams his sword into the earth, screaming that he'll never let his rival get the win. Then, he starts glowing. Blinding golden light floods the area. Emmy and Kara dive behind a rock to survive the incoming nuke. An insane surge of energy erupts from Isaac, engulfing the entire dungeon and shooting a massive pillar of light into the sky. The blast is so bright they can see it from the village. Shachi clocks it immediately. That's Isaac's messy handiwork. He grabs Shannon to head to the dungeon, telling his monster family to keep grinding at the village while they're gone. He whistles for Lucky, and the squad rolls out. As they approach the dungeon entrance, the vibe is ominous. Everything is covered in thick smoke. Silhouettes stumble out of the cave. It's Isaac and his battered team. Isaac looks wrecked, barely standing with Emmy's help. He locks eyes with our MC and delivers the bad news. You can't finish the quest, buddy. The wyverns, the materials, everything got vaporized in the explosion. Shannon starts panicking, asking if they should rush back to the capital to buy mats. Isaac just laughs in her face. But Locke isn't giving up that easy. He says they need to go in and check if any wyvern parts survived. Isaac drops a sarcastic comment, basically saying, have fun wasting your time, and limps away with his group. Locke's crew heads inside. It's a graveyard. Goblin corpses are scattered everywhere. The village is safe now, though. Locke realizes this total destruction was exactly what Isaac intended. They reach the wyvern zone, and it's barren. Isaac's attack didn't leave a single body behind. Shannon scrounges up some scales and claws, but they're trash, too damaged to use. Just as Locke is about to call it quits, thinking it's hopeless, Lucky sniffs something out. The good boy starts wagging his tail like crazy. He leads them behind a boulder to a hidden nest of wyvern eggs totally untouched. Jackpot. They haul the loot back to the village, and the locals are hyped that they actually pulled it off. Locke and the crew stick around for a bit, helping the farmers with their massive cabbage harvest. They chill in the village until the mission deadline finally hits, then pack up to head out for the next adventure. Fortified like a medieval stronghold, the village now stands tall behind massive stone walls, ready to repel any attack. Total respect. Every single villager bows down to Locke and the crew. The chief swears to honor their teachings and hustle hard to level up the settlement. Even the elder granny gives major props to Petra and her ant army for saving their skins. Then comes the big announcement. Cabbage is the new gold standard here. To celebrate, they are rebranding the whole place as Chowchi Cabbage Village. Smiles all around as the crew heads out. But Locke's gaze hardens. Playtime is over. Now, it is just him and Isaac. Cut to the royal capital. Bustling streets. Locke and Shannon zero in on Warren manning his cabbage stand. Warren is beaming. Locke called it perfectly. The cabbage craze is blowing up. Cabbage soup, stuffed cabbage. They are flying off the shelves. And the cherry on top? Warren confirms Isaac's squad bought the bait. Just like Locke predicted, they did not even blink at the sky-high price tag. Warren is practically vibrating with gratitude for the small fortune Locke just handed him. He tries to split the profits, but Locke waves it off, telling him to use the cash to buy a magic ox and boost the village's economy. Warren thanks him again, stunned by the generosity. Fist bumps exchanged, Locke and Shannon march toward the guild. It is showtime. Inside, Isaac and his team are already looming over Rika's desk. Isaac sneers, roasting Locke for dragging his feet. Locke spots the pile of loot, stacked on the counter. A smug grin spreads across Isaac's face as he realizes Locke looks completely empty-handed. He laughs, mocking him for showing up with zero loot. But Locke? Ice cold. Let's settle this, Locke says flatly. Isaac thinks he is bluffing to hide the fear, but Rika just starts tallying the score. Isaac is radiating arrogance, flashing a wicked grin as he tells Locke to get on his knees and beg. Locke does not flinch, nothing to apologize for. Rika clears her throat and announces, Isaac's haul, 20 rainbow wings, 3 spider eggs, and 15 fresh emeralds. Then she drops the bomb. Locke wins. The room goes silent. Isaac explodes, demanding answers. Rika calmly explains, Locke turned in his stash ages ago. 30 wyvern scales, 10 claws, 60 feathers, 9 eggs, and 45 emeralds. Total domination. Isaac is paralyzed, realizing Locke beat him to the dungeon. He snaps, grabbing Locke by the collar. You cheated! Locke sighs, looking bored. I didn't cheat. He stares Isaac down, rich coming from the guy who bought his quest items at a market stall instead of hunting them. Isaac goes pale, but doubles down. I hunted these myself. I didn't buy anything. Locke reaches out, snatching an item from the pile. Then explain why this has the Chowchi Village trade seal stamped on it. Dead silence. Isaac has no comeback. Locke breaks it down. I knew you were empty-handed when we passed you at the dungeon entrance. He reveals the setup. I had Shannon talk loudly about buying supplies in the capital. I knew you would try to buy your way out of failure. The ultimate trap, he reveals. They had extra loot, and left it with a merchant specifically to sell to Isaac's team. At a premium price, of course. Isaac is shaking, consumed by pure rage as the humiliation sinks in. How did you beat me there? He screams. Locke gives him a pitying look. You didn't check the map. There is a shortcut through the village, way faster than the main road. Kara pipes up from the back. Yeah, I noticed that. Isaac whips around, screaming at her. Why didn't you say anything? He questions her drive, asking why she didn't fight to prove they are still S-rank material. Why didn't you try to win? Kara facepalms, looking exhausted. You are the only one obsessed with this ranking garbage, Isaac. Isaac freezes, his ego shattered. Then Locke twists the knife. Hey, thanks for handling those goblins, by the way. He explains the Chauchi villagers were getting hammered by monster attacks. Locke knew the guild was flooded with help requests, but nobody took the job because the village couldn't pay the fee. He glances at Rika. She knew. She set this competition up to force a free cleanup. Rika just smirks. Silence is consent. Locke drops the final hammer. We got our wyvern items on day 1. I manipulated you into fighting the goblins for us. Total puppet master move. Isaac snaps. Logic is gone. You used me. He lunges, fist cocked back to kill. Suddenly, stop. Guildmaster Titus roars, stepping in. Isaac freezes inches from Locke's face. Titus drops the bombshell. Kid spilled his guts. Isaac wasn't just a bystander. He was an active player in the plot to murder Locke and leave him for dead. He looks Isaac dead in the eye. It's over. The words hit like a truck. Isaac squeezes his eyes shut, legs turning to jelly, and crashes to his knees total, crushing defeat. Titus reminds him that the authorities have already grilled the whole squad. Isaac, Emmy, and Kara were all dragged in for questioning. Since Kara and Emmy weren't technically part of the Kill Locke conspiracy, they dodged the heavy prison sentences, getting off with just a demotion to rank C. But with Team Gaia officially disbanded, Kara shoots her shot, suggesting she and Emmy form a new squad with Locke. Locke shuts that down immediately. Hard pass. Kara is left heartbroken and totally bummed out. Later, Locke catches wind that she and Emmy started grinding as a duo. Meanwhile, Kid gets thrown into the deepest dungeon, locked away tight without a key, and the investigation dug up even more dirt from his shady past. As for Isaac, he gets slammed with 6 months of hard labor in the mines. If he ever wants to play adventurer again, he's starting from 0 at rank E. Cut to outside the capital. Locke is chilling, just soaking in the view and enjoying the rare moment of peace. Lucky nudges him, asking what's on his mind. Locke sighs, admitting he's thinking about his childhood crew. He flashbacks to the good old days playing tag, contrasting that nostalgia with his current reality. Surrounded by new friends, and actually having a blast. Locke stands up, eyes burning with resolve. He's finally got the strength to move forward with his real team. Lucky is hyped for him and nods. Locke holds out his fist. Let's keep moving forward. Together. Lucky bumps it back. I got your back. Always. They share a grin before Shannon crashes the moment dinner's ready. Boys. They head off to eat. Later that night, the vibe shifts. In the dark alleys of the capital, a creepy skeletal figure creeps into view. Cut to the royal walls, adventurers are desperately holding the line against a horde of ogres. Bam! One ogre smashes the ground, sending 2 adventurers flying like ragdolls. Panic sets in. It's only a matter of time before these monsters breach the city gates. Just as an ogre raises its massive fist to crush a few helpless adventurers into paste, Locke and Lucky swoop in to block the hit. Hero landing. Locke apologizes to the squad. Sorry, we're late to the party. We'll take it from here. The ogre tries to clock Locke, but whoosh! A massive fireball blasts the beast from behind. It's a flame spell. The smoke clears to reveal Emmy. Locke flashes a smile, glad to see a friendly face in the chaos. Locke shouts to Petra, take command of the others. The Ant Queen accepts, obviously, while flexing her superior leadership skills. She pairs Orange Ants A through E with Gargo and links up with Shannon herself. Locke casts a massive support spell, boosting everyone's basic stats through the roof. Now powered up, the squad leads the charge. Other adventurers join in to take the beasts down. Lucky shreds an ogre with a single swipe of his claws. Easy mode. Locke looks around, almost bored, seeing his team absolutely dominating, thanks to Petra's shot calling. Meanwhile, a hulking ogre corners a terrified Gargo. Gargo spams projectile magic, but panic sets in. It does 0 damage. Locke and Lucky rush in for the save. Finally, every last. Ogre hits the dirt. Victory. The adventurers cheer, thanking Locke profusely for saving their skins. But Locke's confused. Why did ogres attack the capital? Something smells fishy here. Kara heals up the wounded, soaking up their gratitude. Then she drops the condition. You can repay me by buying me a cute new outfit. The adventurers sweat drop. Locke facepalms. Some things never change with her. Suddenly, the royal knights gallop in. Captain Marcus gives a stiff thank you for your cooperation regarding the ogre investigation. Then he drops the bomb. The knights are confiscating the ogre corpses to study their rage. The adventurers are livid. That's their loot. Later at the guild, Guildmaster Titus loses his mind, screaming at Marcus for stealing the kills his adventurers bled for. The 2 leaders butt heads right in front of everyone. Marcus, fires back that it's necessary to analyze the ogre's weird behavior. He adds that they shouldn't be whining since the knights will pay for the bodies. Titus roars. The payout is peanuts. Marcus defends the rate, claiming it's classified as an investigation assistance fee, hence the lowball price. Titus snaps, grabbing Marcus by the collar. Pay my people what they're worth. Marcus stays ice cold. Let go, unless you want a war with the royal knights. Rike claps her hands together, begging them to chill. She tells Titus that she'll handle negotiations with the captain from here. Titus backs off, apologizing to her for letting his rage get the best of him. Later, Locke heads to Titus's office to unpack the drama. Titus warns that if the knights keep acting this high and mighty, the adventurers are eventually going to snap. They are leaving the kingdom's safety. Titus starts monologuing about how adventurers are basically the lifeblood of city growth and defense, not to mention they are the ones handling the citizens' dirty work. He goes on about how vital they are for clearing out monster threats, and how the kingdom only thrives because of the mysterious artifacts these guys haul back from the dungeons. Then he circles back to complaining about Marcus undervaluing them. Titus admits he got a bit heated earlier, mostly because he has got ancient beef with Marcus. Old rivalries die hard. But Titus flips the script and asks Locke to take on a brand new commission. He drops some intel. There has been a string of robberies involving magical stones known as fire gems all over the capital. The catch? 0 witnesses. He tells Locke he is the only one who can crack this cold case and promises a fat reward. Even if they do not catch the thief, just figuring out the how is enough to get paid. Locke takes the job. Suddenly, the serious mood gets shattered by a massive stomach growl. They freeze, realizing the noise came from Shannon. She turns beet red. Cut to later. Locke and the crew are living their best lives, chowing down on wild boar skewers right on the street. Shannon apologizes to Locke for ruining the serious business talk. He brushes it off, saying he was actually starving too. Shannon still thanks him, totally grateful. With bellies full, they hit the armor shop, and this place is stacked wall-to-wall weapons. The owner, Mateo, spots Locke immediately. Mateo heard Locke split from his old toxic party, saying it was a blessing in disguise since those losers never respected his support magic. Locke is genuinely shook that Mateo knows about his secret support blessing. Mateo asks what brings a guy like him in. Locke says he is gearing up the orange ant. Kids. Mateo does a double take, finally realizing that Petra is an orange ant and Gargo is literally a gargoyle from the Demonia army. Mateo gives Locke props for being a total maverick who breaks every rule in the book. The squad starts browsing. The orange ant. Kids are mesmerized, eyes glued to every blade and bow, playing around with the inventory. Eventually, each ant picks their favorite weapon, clutching them with their tiny hands. Locke asks why Shannon and Gargo are sitting this one out. Shannon says her gear is already top tier, and Gargo points out he is a spellcaster, not a melee fighter. Locke walks over to check on Petra, and sees she has picked out a staff. Petra whispers that she wants to support the team with magic, just like her dad. But then, her face drops. She is worried she doesn't have the talent to actually pull it off. Locke gives her a gentle head pat, promising they can grind magic practice together. Petra beams and nods. Locke starts theory crafting. Since Petra has leadership stats, she is bound to be a natural at support buffs. Suddenly, a guy in flashy metal armor struts in, spots Petra, and straight up kicks her. Locke sprints to her side, checking for damage. The guy starts whining about monsters in the shop. Locke screams at him for hurting a kid. The guy just grins, looking smug, and says a lowly beast tamer has no right to raise his voice. Locke completely ignores the trash and asks Petra if she is hurt. Petra chirps back happily that she is totally fine. Locke lets out a breath, remembering she is technically a monster with high defense. The hostile knight gets triggered by the silent treatment and asks if they know who he is. Everyone hits him with a collective, no clue. Offended, the guy drops his bio. He is Melee, a high-ranking noble and the future captain of the Royal Knights. Locke hits him with the "I don't care" and demands an apology for Petra. This sends Melee into a rage. He tries to get the elf to talk some sense into her pet Tamer. He warns Shannon that challenging the knightly order is a bad move, especially for an elf. Shannon's voice drops an octave. "What did you just say?" Melee thinks he struck a nerve and looks satisfied. He doubles down, calling her a decrepit old hag hiding behind a pretty face. The more he talks, the harder Shannon grinds her teeth. Shannon claps back that she isn't old, but the real reason she is furious? He called Locke a dumb boy. She draws her blade, points it at Melee, and says she is about to teach him a painful lesson. Melee, blind with rage, dares her to say that again. He is so focused on her, he doesn't notice Captain Marcus spawning right behind him. Next second, Melee is nursing a massive, swollen cheek after getting decked by his own captain. Marcus bows to Locke's crew, apologizing for his subordinate acting like a fool. He also apologizes to Petra, but the kid shrugs it off, saying the kick was too weak to hurt anyway. Locke says they are cool, just as long as Petra stays safe. Marcus offers another apology, then flips the script by addressing Locke directly. Locke is totally floored that the captain of the Royal Knights actually recognizes him. Marcus drops a bombshell. Locke is basically a trending topic back in the capital. Everyone knows the Beast Tamer now. And the kicker? They've received strict orders to keep eyes on him. Then Marcus switches gears, grilling Mateo about the missing fire gems. Mateo looks defeated, he admits. His gems are ghosting him once or twice a week. In fact, another one just vanished into thin air. Locke steps up, asking the captain if they have any leads or suspects on their radar. Marcus shifts uncomfortably. You can tell he hates admitting this, but he says they have absolutely zero clues. All they know is the gems disappear randomly, and oh yeah, a massive shipment got heisted straight from the Knight's warehouse. As Marcus and Melee bounce back to HQ, Shannon is low-key shook. She realizes Marcus is actually way chillier than her first impression suggested. Meanwhile, Locke switches to detective mode. He asks Mateo to show him exactly where the gems went missing, dropping the info that this is now an official guild investigation. Mateo leads Locke to the workshop, pointing to his workbench as the last known location. Locke scans the room, his instincts kicking in, spotting the two entrances. His gut tells him someone slick could have sneaked in and out without anyone catching a glimpse, but the logic doesn't track. Why would a thief risk a full-blown break-in just for a handful of refined gems? It would make way more sense to snatch the high-tier weapons. Locke pushes for more info, asking where the rest of the stash is kept. Mateo takes him to a heavy chest where the reserve gems live. He's convinced they weren't touched because the lock is still tight. Locke decides it's time to call in backup. He asks to summon his familiar, and Mateo gives the green light. Locke's miniature garden bracelet starts glowing, the magic flaring up as he begins the summoning ritual. Boom! Lucky bursts out, but there is a problem. He is absolutely massive. The poor guy can barely move inside the cramped shop. The wolf immediately gets salty, whining about being summoned into such a tiny space. Mateo's jaw hits the floor. He is stunned to see Locke actually pulled it off. He really bonded with a rare familiar, just like the rumors said. Locke turns to Lucky, asking if he can track the thief's scent. Lucky takes a sniff but shakes his head. The shop is a chaotic cocktail of smells. It is impossible to isolate the thief's trail. The big wolf looks genuinely bummed out that he can't be more helpful. Locke reassures him, saying he did his best, and Lucky vanishes in a blink. Mateo is left staring at Locke's wrist, totally mind-blown. The fact that a simple bracelet can contain a beast like Lucky? Insane. Mateo is hyped, realizing the kid he used to know has become seriously OP. He starts reminiscing about how useless Locke used to be, spilling the tea to Shannon and Petra. Locke turns beet red and screams at him to cut it out. Mateo laughs it off and turns to Petra, apologizing for the earlier drama. He says he wants to make amends. As a peace offering, he unveils something special, a custom-made mithril chest plate that is gleaming with metallic glory. Locke freezes. He knows mithril is ultra-rare, only nobles and royalty can afford that drip. Locke immediately shakes his head, insisting they can't accept something so high value. But Mateo waves him off, telling him to chill, it's not a problem. He explains he forged this masterpiece ages ago. Sad story, though the noble's son it was made for got incredibly sick, and never got the chance to wear it. The noble returned the gear, but Mateo didn't have the heart to scrap his best work. The shop owner pleads with them to finally give the armor a purpose. Locke sees how much this means to the old man, and nods they'll take it. Mateo promises to make some quick adjustments, and they can pick it up in a few days. Cut to the next day, and the Orange Ant Squad is staring down a pack of giant boars, brandishing their new weapons. Tension rises, and then, total domination. The ants absolutely wreck the boars with a single strike. It's not even a fight, it's a massacre. Locke is completely floored by how easily they mastered the new gear. Watching them tear through the battlefield, he is buzzing with anticipation, wondering just how powerful his girls are going to get. After a short skirmish, the boars are down for the count. The orange ants celebrate the W. Suddenly, Orange Bee trots up to Locke and tugs on his shirt. Locke asks, "What's up?" but she doesn't say a word. Petra saves the day, miming a head pat motion to the oblivious dad. Ah, lightbulb moment. Locke smiles, reaches down, and gives Orange Bee a gentle head pat, telling her she was amazing. That praise hits different, the little ant beams with pure joy. But now, the floodgates are open. The other girls see the VIP treatment and immediately swarm their dad, demanding their own head pats too. Moments later, the whole squad is glowing, high on validation. Locke, Petra, and Shannon just watch, soaking in the wholesome vibes. Suddenly, Locke hears that internal system voice. A wyvern is about to hatch. It asks if he wants to form a pact. Meanwhile, back in the monster world, The wyvern eggs are cracking open, and the timing is perfect. The monster family is celebrating the new arrivals. Locke sends a mental high five to Squeaver for babysitting the eggs. A status window pops up. The wyvern hatchlings have officially joined the team, but that's not all. The facility selection menu for the monster world unlocks. The system informs Locke he can now build 3 new facilities. Big upgrades are coming. Locke starts navigating the interface, spawning a mine, some fruit trees, and a thermal spring, right on the hillside. The hot spring is a total vibe, and he's already plotting how to turn that cave mine into a massive weapon stash someday. Best part? The banana trees are ready for harvest. He's hyped just thinking about how much his little pocket world is going to level up. Locke and Sinan hop on Lucky to ride back to the guild. Locke mentions grilling the wild boar tonight and flipping the leftovers at the market for cash. Suddenly, Lucky slams on the brakes, spotting a graveyard in the distance. A massive tombstone stands out, glowing gold against the sunset like a beacon. Lucky bolts toward it, dragging Locke and Sinan along for the ride. But up close, the golden glow vanishes. Total buzzkill. Sinan clings to Locke's arm, and he realizes she's trembling. The elf whispers that she can't handle spooky places like this. Locke gently pats her head to calm her down, promising that he and Lucky have her back. She relaxes, agreeing to stay put, while Locke studies the golden grave, completely oblivious to how happy those head pats made her. He reads the inscription. Here lies the great sage, De Muerte. He explains to Sinan that De Muerte was a legendary hero who saved the nation. She was known for being stunning, kind, and having a galaxy brain level of wisdom. Her claim to fame was single-handedly brokering a truce with the Demon King, walking right into his castle to sign the pact that guaranteed the peace they have now. Sinan is totally starstruck. Since the sun is setting, Locke calls it a wrap, and they head back. Back at the guild, they catch Melee throwing a tantrum at Rika because he just found out. No adventurer wants to touch his request. Melee spots Locke and basically demands he take the mission. Locke grabs the flyer from the noble and realizes the job is exterminating a swarm of bugs in the sewers. Gross. But Locke does a double take. The reward is 30 gold coins because a fire gem was found down there. Melee acts all high and mighty, saying Locke should feel honored to serve the knights, bragging that 30 gold is pocket change to them. Melee demands Rika stamp the approval now, calling her an ugly woman for hesitating. Rika freezes. She smiles. The aura around her turns. Absolutely homicidal, terrifying Melee. Rika says she understands and posts the quest. Melee runs out screaming that he's satisfied as long as she gets it. Locke asks Rika if she's actually okay with this. Rika replies she has to agree since they can't afford beef with the knights. But inside, she's boiling with rage, taking it personally, and plotting some serious misery for that guy. Later, Locke and Sinan hit the sewers. The stench is so toxic, they have to cover their faces just to breathe. As they trek through the sludge, Locke casts purification magic to clear the water around them. Under the filth, they spot some fire gems. Locke pockets one, but honestly, it's kind of a letdown. No other clues down here. Sinan suggests splitting up to cover more ground. Locke tells her to watch her step since it's slippery. The elf brags about her perfect balance, doing a ballerina spin, and immediately wipes out. Locke catches her just before she hits the muck. She freezes, shocked by how close Locke's face is to hers. She turns bright red. Locke whispers her name, and the tension spikes. She thinks a confession is coming. False alarm. He just says they need to head back to the surface. Once they're topside, Sinan is still pouting that her romantic moment flopped. Then Locke suggests they hit the hot springs together, leaving the elf absolutely shook, her face exploding in a blush.